This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
Becky, fishy.
You are listening to the Voices of Wrestling podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
X out and go listen to some boring podcast where they're afraid of their own shadow. Okay? Don't listen to Joe Lanza, because Joe Lanza's not changing.
And Rich Craich.
I like him. Who delivers this guy in a big spot?
Joe, don't yell at me. I like him.
In the big spot, who delivers better than this guy?
Stop yelling at me. I agree.
All right, welcome to another edition here of the Voices of Wrestling Flagship Podcast. I'm Rich Craich, alongside, as always, King of Banter, very good family man, Mr. Joe Lanza. Joe, what's happening?
Yeah, it's the podcast gods. They always get you. You know, we're recording this at the earliest time we've ever recorded it. I mean, this is like mid-afternoon.
I know. The light is out. The amount of times that I've talked to you while it's light outside, I can count on one hand, and it's a little weird. It's a little disorienting, I won't lie.
Yeah, Craich was fired from his job. So everyone, patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling. There's 3 price tiers for every budget. Craich is home in mid-afternoon.
Is that what that means when they said, hey, Rich, go home early? You know what? Take the rest of the week off. Hey, I thought that was good. All right. Well,
Can only mean one thing. Craich he's been shit-canned. What do they say in Europe? You've been sacked.
Sacked,
right?
Yeah,
Isn't that what they say?
Sacked. I think so. Did they say that in America? I feel like they say that in America too.
Really? I think it's a British thing, right? Sacked. Okay. But maybe because I think I know why though. Because when like a soccer coach gets fired in like the English Premier League, they say he got sacked. And maybe because the EPL has become, I don't want to say super popular, but more popular in the United States, maybe that's how Americans started using sacked, through the soccer. Good theory?
To me, I feel like people do use sacked though, and even prior to this recent time. But I don't know that. I can't say for sure. Let me just do like sacked NBA. Let's see here. NBA. .au. I was just trying to find out like what. You might be onto something here.
Pretty sure it's a British.
Yeah.
Slang.
Okay. Because well, you would know because you now like you essentially are raising 2 British children and a converted British wife, so you would know. But yeah, I'm looking at every article about like an NBA coach getting sacked, and they're all from Australia or India. So you might be onto something there. So there you go. Okay.
All British Kingdom. Yeah, absolutely. Between the Peppa Pig and the Love Island UK, it's just. The 3 of them over here.
So what is Love Island UK? I know nothing of Love Island UK. So
it's a dopey reality show. It's like a reality show where everybody's hooking up and fucking.
Okay.
That's the premise. But it's based in the UK and it's like 1,000. It never ends. Like I think she's on episode 45 of whatever season it is. But now TLB's she's using like British slang around the house. She's like referring to people as blokes. Uh-oh. And she's like, all kinds of shit like that. She's like, we need to have a chat. Like all the shit that she hears on the show, it's like it's seeping into her vernacular. Just like the kids with the Peppa Pig. I've told this story before, but it's like I don't know if I told it on the show though. I'm playing like the girl, she's got one of these, these gimmick, toy cash registers with the money and the plastic coins, So I'm playing with her, and she's got like this ice cream shop that she has set. Nobody cared. But the point here is I'm like, yeah, I'll buy some of your ice cream. And she gives me the fake ice cream cone, and I'm like, how much? And she's like, £2, please. Like, because of the Peppa Pig. Like, she doesn't say dollars, she says pounds. And I got the wife running around the house referring to people as blokes. I feel like I'm in like South London over here.
Yeah, it's gonna be bad. Has she told you? Has she asked you if you wanted to wank yet or no? Because that's gonna be the real.
If she calls me a wanker?
No. If she says, "Do you want to wank?"
Well, I'm waiting for her to bust out like, "Hey, you fancy a poke?" Like when she wants to
yeah, like your old fake taxi stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the fake taxi stuff. Absolutely. But No, I haven't gotten any of that yet. But isn't wank is like jerking off, right? So if she tells
I don't know. You always, I think the famous quote, isn't it? Have a wank, will ya? Wasn't that the famous quote from?
Man,
or having a wank. I think we cut that out from our intro now that we're people actually listen to the show. So that's
we did cut that. That used to be in the intro. You're right. That's a good memory. I don't even remember that. No, when I did the fake taxi impression, right?
I think it was having a wank, wasn't it?
Something like that. Yeah, but wank means to jerk off. That's what I'm saying.
That's what I mean. I'm saying, does she? Is she telling you that or something?
If TLB is telling me to go wank, then I'm not getting any action.
Right.
Because she's telling me to go, rub one out. So I don't want her to say that. I want her to say, "Hey, fancy a poke." But I would have to say fancy a poke to her because I'm the one who does the poking.
Right.
So yeah. All this news, and this is the segment we open
exactly.
with.
It's early, and we don't have an excuse for it being late either because it's literally 4 p.m. right now. So
awful British slang like that. We're definitely screwing up. I mean, you can just see our Twitter mentions now, right? I mean, we're in trouble for this one.
Well, I couldn't wait because we're going to talk about MCW Vendetta, some Australian wrestling, and I know that we're going to be terrible. I mean, we're not going to say Melbourne right. I'm already said it wrong, so I don't care. That's fine. We're going to get a ton of those people as well telling us, no, it's actually Melbourne. It's this, it's that, it's that, yada, yada. All right, whatever. We're going to get that wrong. So we may as well just start off now early and then, go through the rest of the show. So
Crikey! That's all I know in Australia. Or Crocodile Dundee. You really want to take it back? He's before the guy who got killed by the Stingray. Who's Steve Irwin.
Steve Irwin, yeah.
But before that was Crocodile Dundee. Remember Paul Hogan?
That's true. Yeah, unfortunately, and I hate to be an asshole, but that is legitimate. I think all that most Americans know about Australia is.
Oh, and Foster's
Crocodile Dundee, Foster's, and Steve Irwin. Yeah, is about our frame of reference for Australia, unfortunately. But we're going to try to be better. We watch the Aussie Graps. We got some excitement going on in Australia and that wrestling scene. So we're going to try to get better. We're trying to learn a little bit more about Australia. So
I don't know anything about beer. But doesn't Foster's beer come in an 87-ounce can?
It's a pretty large can, yeah. It's a very, very large can, and I used to be a pretty big fan of Foster's back in the day. It's a solid shit beer, but it was just man, the amount of beer you got for a low price, it was well, hell, this is great. But it comes in. I forget the exact ounces that it is. It might vary by region, but yeah, it's quite a large can, and it's. Yeah, that's the commercials aren't around anymore though. The Foster's commercials. I feel like I grew up on Foster's commercials. Now I haven't seen them in years. I don't even know if they're still around. The commercials. I know that the Foster's is still around, but yeah, I don't know about the.
I haven't seen a commercial in ages. But Rich is a beer snob, as we all know. So he's putting over the Foster's as a good shit tier beer.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm thinking?
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're going to drink a shit tier beer, if you're not going to go craft, if you're not going to be all fucking fancy like the beer snob over here, and you're gonna drink a shit tier beer, that's one of the ones you would recommend.
Absolutely, yeah. 25.4 ounces. That's not bad. That's a lot of that could pack a lot of heat in one big can. Yeah, that's great. So that sets you up for the night, man. Bring 2 of those home, you're good. You're good to go.
I'd like a 25-ounce Coke Zero. I would enjoy that.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's you and then you nurse that the whole day. You're good.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'd be all about that. What's another good shit tier beer?
Another good shit tier beer. I like Pabst Blue Ribbon. I don't know if is that available in your region? Well, you don't drink, so you have no idea.
I know what it is.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what's regional, what's not. I didn't know if PBR was a Midwest thing.
You forget too that I run bars. So
that's true. That's true. So you guys have PBR by you?
Yeah, but the big local beer here is Shiner.
Yeah, and I was about to bring up. I like Shiner. Shiner's pretty solid. I was pretty amazed when I went to Texas, and I went to a bar, and the Shiner was $2, and I was okay, because our $2 and $3 and $4 our real shit shit beers are real shit. They're old style or Bud Light or shit like that I hate. I can't stand. Or Schlitz or stuff like that, which again I think that's all regional.
They still make Schlitz.
What they do, yeah. It's very hard. It's harder to find now these days. I forget the original company obviously is not still around. They've been bought out by some big company that.
Right. Well, you're real. I forget that you're real close to Milwaukee, so you get all those shit tier beers.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, because a lot of those are owned by Miller, so they kind of distribute all throughout as well. And then PBR, that's originally from Wisconsin as well. But yeah, no, I like Shiner. Shiner's pretty solid. Yingling's a good, but I don't know if that's considered shit tier to most people, but I like Yingling. It's solid stuff.
We might be getting into mid tier here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Is Shiner considered shit tier? Like at the bars that you would manage, where they're all, that was like the cheapest beer or one of the cheapest beers?
You know who's going to order a Shiner when they walk in.
Right.
If it's a guy, in some boots, maybe with a hat, he's ordering a Shiner, but I don't know. It's not. I don't know if you can consider it shit tier because it's probably the most popular beer here in a lot of the establishments, just because it's the local institution. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
But so it's actually good though, and that's the thing is I think it's actually pretty solid. It's like a different type of beer. It's got some character to it. It's not like Bud Light or whatever, which is just like the most stripped down, the most basic beer you can ever have or whatever, or those other ones I was mentioning, like your Schlitz or whatever's. But like Shiner's got some personality to it. It's a Bock beer. It's got some color to it. It's got that amber. It's got So I don't know. I don't know if it's considered a shit tier beer or not. So
all I ever see in the house are girl beers. There's the Michelob Ultra is very popular in this household, and like the lime flavored gimmicks, like a lot of that, like the Bud Light lime. Yeah, so very in between sipping on a Starbucks. It's those kind of beers over here. God. But
whatever. It's fine.
Gimmick. It's your gimmick. So
that's fine. The Michelob I get. That's it's. I think their gimmick is like. It's like 45 calories or something like that. It's like low calorie or whatever. Like at that point, just drink water. Like what are you doing? Drink vodka. Drink some vodka for God's sakes. But the lime stuff is tough. That I can't defend. So
just by the smell of beer, I would think that the lime flavored beers taste disgusting.
They're horrible. They're hideous. They're awful. And
I've never tasted beer in my life, but I feel like that's a bad combination.
No, they're so bad. I mean, you can put a lime in a beer like a Corona. Put a lime in it. It can sometimes enhance it. I'm not a big fan of it. It doesn't do much for me, but it's all right. But the stuff that comes pre-limed or whatever it's hideous. It is exactly what it smells like is what it tastes like and exactly what you think. So yeah, I can't defend that one at all. So
you never want to deal with an angry restaurant customer who orders a Corona if you're out of lime. I mean, they act like you're like you've murdered their children. Right. It's like, do you really need the lime gimmick inside that? Like, is it really that vital to the experience?
So here's the thing is because it kind of is because the beer is not very good, but so the lime gives it like some decent flavor, which again is a larger issue is like, you just order a better beer. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
It's that, but I've been there. I've had friends that like legitimately, because like Blue Moon's the same way too. You guys probably have Blue Moon by you where you need the orange. If you don't have the orange, people like lose their goddamn mind.
They lose their shit. Yeah, yeah.
Just because they've been told you have to put an orange in this.
And it makes me wonder, is Blue Moon in cahoots with like
big orange? Yeah, big orange corporations. Yeah, that's
right. Like, are they in cahoots? Because what made them pick that fruit? Because lime was taken. So you're gonna have another one come out with like grapefruit or something, and another one come out with like fucking kiwi. Where does it end? I feel like it's all a racket.
So Joe, WWE fired their company.
You don't want to do 3 hours on this?
I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I'm enjoying this. So we can keep going if you want. I'm trying to think. So do you like milkshakes, Joe?
Milk? Oh, okay. This is I mean, I enjoy a milkshake now and then, sure.
So they have milkshake beers now.
Well, remember, milkshake, that's how I accidentally consumed alcohol.
Exactly.
Remember that?
Right.
Yeah. I ordered the milkshake in the restaurant. They didn't tell us that the milkshakes contained alcohol. It burnt the back of my throat. I was coughing and choking, and the people I was with took a sip, and they were like, oh, yeah, this is loaded.
Right.
And I'm like, no, seriously, though, if I would have been like a recovering alcoholic or something,
tough. You whatever that medicine is where you vomit when, you consume alcohol to try to, wean off of it or whatever, that would have been pretty bad. Yeah, that would have been almost as bad as, doing that to Scott Hall when he, entered the WWE and then dripping beer all over him and then him throwing up and then getting fired for it. So, yeah, that'd be, like that. It'd be similar to that. So.
Yeah, like me, I'm laid back. I don't care. I just called the waiter over and he gave me, like, free cheese sticks or something. But you really could have – they're going to get in big trouble. I'm like, you really need to put that on the menu. You guys are going to get fucked here. Because they're, but anyway, yes, I do enjoy a nice milkshake, alcohol-free.
I forgot it was as a terrible experience for you. I was going to say, if you ever wanted to, the milkshake IPAs are pretty good, but I forget that experience was not good. So yeah, maybe just stick to the Diet Dr. Pepper and Coke Zeros. So
I'm drinking a Coke Zero right now.
That's good.
It's very
I got a Diet
refreshing.
Ginger Ale. Diet Ginger Ale is pretty solid too, as far as diet sodas go.
Something about ginger ale? I'm going to tell you something about ginger ale, okay? I like it warm. Is that weird?
No, not at all.
I prefer it warm to cold. I think it's a beverage better served
for
warm.
sure.
Yeah, the flavor really pops. I'll tell you another one too, the cream soda. It's almost better warm.
Okay, I've never done that. I'm going to try it. I have cream soda in the house. I might take it out and try it later.
I feel like ginger ale and cream soda, it's like you want that sort of smooth, warm vibe rather than the cool, crisp vibe. It kind of enhances the flavors on it just works better on the palate for me. I don't know. Is that an uppity cream soda take, Rich?
I don't know. Yeah. Well, what type of cream sodas are you talking here? Do you frequent in the, because like my grocery store has like the fun soda aisle where it's got like a bunch of different brands and bottles and these weird type of ones, or do you just go with like, your standard cream sodas?
You a craft soda guy?
Every so often.
Every now and then I'll grab one of them gimmick 6-packs and throw it in the refrigerator, and but generally I just stick to the store brands. The supermarket brands, not the store brands. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Your A&Ws or your whatever the fuck. But yeah, I'll go with the gimmick brand now and then. Glass bottle, the whole nine.
I will say as we continue, it's unbelievable. Show. We've talked about this before, and I know that you're an expert in this field. The Coke Freestyles or whatever the hell the Pepsi gimmick is, I forget what they're called. The cream sodas in those are fucking amazing. Because you can go wild with that shit. Because I'll do cherry vanilla cream soda. I'll do, I go to, because some people might do like Coke or whatever, all that sort of stuff. No. You got to go deep into the thing, get some root beer, get some cream soda. That's where you can get the real fun stuff going.
You got to go orange, mix the orange with the cream soda.
Yeah, orange. I do the orange cream soda all the time. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tremendous mix.
So you blew my mind with that, talking about those a few months ago. I don't know if you did it I don't think it was on the podcast. I believe it was on our Slack, talking about that no matter what you order, you get like this, you get Coke Zero or something. What was this gimmick that you were saying? Because it blew my mind, and I've told a bunch of people, and they still don't believe me as well. So so the Coke Freestyle. Now are you sworn to secrecy on this? Do you have like an NDA on this, or is it okay?
Not anymore. Okay. I never worked for Coke, but the Coke Freestyle, I did sit in and consult. It doesn't matter. The point here is this. I know a lot about the Coke Freestyle machine. When you order flavored Coke, okay, it's dispensing Coke Zero with the flavor. That's what people are, for some reason they fight that. But I'm like, okay, it's whatever. But here's the thing. Like, here's how you know. If you're ever in a restaurant and the Coke Freestyle machine runs out of Coke Zero, okay, all of the flavored Cokes are now grayed out. You can't order them because the flavored Cokes dispense off of Coke Zero. So if people don't believe me, if you ever happen to be in there when the Coke Zero is out, try to order a cherry Coke. You can't do it, or an orange Coke or a lime Coke, whatever the fuck. You won't be able to do it. That's okay. I don't care if they don't believe me, but that's how it works.
Unbelievable.
It dispenses off of the Coke Zero.
That to me, that sounds like that's like a controversy waiting to happen, right? Because people love their Coke and they love like original. There's those hard.
They can't tell the fucking difference with the flavors in there. And the thing about it is, I think it has to do with like the calorie count laws, where you have to display the calorie counts and all that. Mm-hmm. And it has something to do with that, where the full Coke when then you add the flavors and it has something to do with all that bullshit. Is I don't know the reason, but I think that's part of the reason why it's done that way. But
that was an insane revelation to me, and I have been there. I
don't know why everyone feels it's so shocking. Like, what's the big deal?
Because I just think people think that they're getting, I want, regular, because people are so. Like I said, I don't really give a shit that much, but there are people that are like dyed in the wool, like regular Coke, the original. Like, I don't give a shit. I'll try Diet Coke. I'll do Coke Zero. Whatever. I don't really care.
If you're that dyed in the wool about your red canned Coke, then don't get fucking gimmicky fucking flavors.
Don't add sherry to it. I know, I agree, but then people get like crazy about that. So I think if you told people that like you think you're getting regular Coke, but you're actually getting Coke Zero, I feel like they're. It would be a huge controversy. So I believe you. Because I've been there. I've been at a restaurant where the flavors have been out, and I said, Joe told me about this, and I went over and I said, look, and I was trying to tell Michelle, and she just rolled her eyes and said, I don't really care. You're lying, or he's lying, or what does he know? And I'm like, you're wrong. Look at this. The flavors are out, and why would the flavors be out? I can order a Coke, but I can't put orange in it. Why? Exactly. Right. So it was. But she didn't believe me, and there's going to be a lot of people in the mentions that are not going to believe us. It's all right.
Well, here's the thing. Not only does Michelle not care, nobody else cares either. What are we doing? That should be your clue.
I think you're underrating how many people care about this.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, they're all going to argue with me, but they're all wrong.
Right. We're going to have some people, I know, I work at a restaurant. Okay, all right, whatever. We'll see. I mean, maybe those people, maybe they've changed or whatnot. Okay. Anyway, whatever.
Which is also possible, too, because there's many different... Well, why am I doing it? Let's just move on, because I can do this for a half hour.
We'll have to do a Patreon episode where Joe and Rich just talk about...
Coke freestyle machine.
Coke freestyle machines, because I got a lot of takes on the Coke freestyle machine. And yeah, the first conversation where this ever came up was like legit like a 4-hour conversation of people bouncing questions off of you, talking about their mixes, talking about what they do, the strategy when they go to them, the things they get, the hierarchy of drinks. It's unbelievable how much goes into those. I'll
give you one more. Do you know if you download the Coke app on your phone?
Yes.
You get secret recipes.
Absolutely. Are you kidding? Of course. Day one, when I said, because there was a little bubble that said like download the app, you get extra recipes. I was like, boom, let's go. Like
secret recipes. That's right.
Great stuff in those. Yeah. It's
you ever have the Christmas Coke during just December?
I did. Yeah. That's how I do about it. Yeah.
It's got kind of that pine cone.
Yeah. It's not great. It's not great. I mean,
it's
I'm glad
not very
I have
good,
it.
but you could sit at the table with the rest of your friends and be like, I got the secret Christmas.
Yeah, it's one. No, I absolutely do that. I'm like, Christmas Coke, and then people try it, like that's disgusting. I'm like, I know, but I got it. So, did you try the cinnamon Coke gimmick this holiday?
I did not.
It's terrible. Don't do it. Yeah, it's really really bad. So, all right, let's.
I don't do Chikara Coke. I just get my Coke Zero, and it's how I am. I'm a simple man, Rich.
Yeah,
I'm not big on the gimmicks. Anyway.
Right.
Unless they're exclusive to me, like the Christmas Coke.
Yeah, then you got it. Well, that's then you can get puffy chested about that. You can puffy chested about it.
Absolutely. While I close my nose and swallow it because it tastes horrendous, but I'm the only one that has it.
Right.
So Michelle Wilson and George Barrios.
Yeah, so bearing the lead here, 20 minutes into the show, but yeah, some decent news here. I think you were actually what started this entire conversation is you said sometimes the podcast gods look down upon us because we were about to slap record because it was early. I got fired or whatever, so it was early in the day. We were ready to go. And we were about to hit record, and just as we were kind of getting all set up and ready to go, this news crossed, which thank God, because this is a huge, huge topic. I would have felt compelled to at least try to do some audio about this, or maybe you could sneak into a Patreon show or something. But this came through from WWE.com, or corporate.WWE.com, their corporate end here for investors. It says, WWE today announced that co-presidents George Barrios and Michelle Wilson will depart the company effective immediately and will no longer serve on its board of directors. Frank A. Riddick III, who has served as a member of WWE board of directors. That's a great name, by the way. You're a very rich man if your name is Frank A. Riddick III. Anyway, he has been on the board of directors for more than 11 years. He has been named interim chief financial officer, reporting to WWE chairman and CEO Vince McMahon. WWE has commenced a search for both a permanent CFO and chief revenue officer. So there's some other stuff in there, some random quotes or whatnot. But the big news story there is George Barrios, Michelle Wilson out immediately as WWE co-presidents. That's huge news.
Yes. Again, this all broke literally as we were going on the air, so we really don't have a lot of the details, but it sure sounds like they were shit-canned, Rich, just like you were earlier today. It sounds like
saying that. I'm going to go to work tomorrow, and they're going to be like, what are you doing here? Joe was right.
Sounds like they were sacked. But again, we don't, all we have to go on right now is the press release, which literally, was it a press release or was it a corporate?
I guess I don't know what you would call it. Yeah, just whatever it investors release or whatever. Yeah, whatever you would call that. But it was a news wire item, a business wire item for sure.
Yeah, especially as a publicly traded company. So, it's hard really to comment much on it, except that these are big, massive, sweeping changes. These are arguably, two of the four most powerful people in the company. Certainly two of the five most powerful people in the company at minimum, and they're out. So look, it's no secret with the financials of this company. It's if anyone who pays attention to them knows that it's the television deals that are carrying them 100%. House show business, which I guess we can tie into this with news breaking this week, has been a money loser. Rich has been screaming from the top of the hilltops, just stop running house shows. Well, Rich, it looks like they're severely cutting back on house shows. So that's been a money-losing
But also
venture.
part of that is redo the contracts too, because the flip side of that, which has gotten made the rounds the last few days as well, is that the idea of, hey, less house shows, all right, great, our bodies, but also wait, hold on, our money, because that's how they make a lot of their money. The wrestlers is they get their downsides, and a lot of the bonuses come from house shows. So it's in two. It's like, yeah, don't run as many house shows because they're money losers, but also like, you got to figure out a way to pay your guys as well. So that's been they haven't quite figured out. So.
Well, that'll self-correct when the contracts come up, because when contracts come due, anyone who has gotten a new contract from WWE since AEW has hit the scene obviously has been taken care of. They're all getting massive raises. So, it's luck of the draw. I mean, if you signed a 3-year deal 6 months before they started throwing big money at everybody to prevent jumps, I mean, you're just kind of beat for another year and a half or whatever it is, and then when your deal comes up, you have the same leverage that everybody else had, especially with AEW getting their contract extended by TNT. That was the best news for every wrestler, for every competent major league level pro wrestler in the world, really, when that happened. So, it's just that just have to work itself out. Because I'm sure, like the club, for instance, with their $500,000 contracts over the net, what they signed, a 3 or 5, I don't remember, but with their multi-million-dollar deals, is that fair to say? Because they signed for $500,000 a year for 3 to 5 years or whatever it was. I don't think that they're sweating the loss of these house shows as much as, say, another wrestler who is working under an old deal where they made a lot of money working the house shows. So that, I think, will just work itself out over time as the contracts come due, because eventually everybody's going to be under these new contracts, or they're going to walk and go work somewhere else. But yeah, between the house shows losing money, between all the other line items either being flat or down, I mean, the network hasn't shown any growth for how many quarters now? I mean, I kind of lose track, but the network sort of flatlined and
to the
has
point
plateaued.
where they don't bring it up anymore. It's kind of George goes, who cares about the network?
Yeah,
look at how many hours of content we have. That used to be the front thing is, we're striving towards our goal, we're striving towards our goal, and all of a sudden it was just like, you know what? Who cares about the numbers? The numbers don't matter. The content matters. Right. The hours of content is what we care about.
Yeah,
which is a good ruse because it worked. It worked every time.
Yeah, and anyone who follows WWE financials or listens to WrestleNomics on this podcast network or follows the work of Brandon Thurston knows that if it were not for these television deals, they'd be fucked. But it's such a drastic swing because the television deals are so great that they're more profitable than they've ever been in their history, despite the fact that every facet of their business is sort of lagging, which is like this weird dichotomy. And it's just thanks to the state of television and rights fees coming just at the right time in their history, everything else sort of gets obscured. But it's not that's not good that these other facets are. So if they were in fact fired, which it appears as though they may have been, certainly with this coming out of nowhere and the verbiage used in the release, then it just shows that Vince McMahon isn't playing games and he wants to see these other areas improve, particularly. And maybe, what do you think about this? Perhaps pushed a little bit by the idea that his new billionaire competition just got their television deal extended and look to be players for at least what is it now, the next 4 years at minimum. Right. So do you think that could have anything to do with it now that there's quote unquote real, I mean, look, they're not necessarily challenging for giant pieces of the pie, with the exception on Wednesday nights going up against their C show. But it's still competition in the sense of battling for talent, and who knows, things change so fast. The possibility of AEW getting an even a more advantageous TV deal down the line, those sorts of things. Do you think the presence of AEW has anything to do with this story if they were in fact fired?
Yeah, I think it probably has something It's got to. It'd be ignorant to think that it doesn't have something to do with it, but there's so many other things at play too, and I cannot wait to hear a little bit more. I mean, we have there's a call coming up next week, where those numbers might be the numbers that let us know, oh, this is why. You know what I mean? Like there might be something in that where it's like, oh shit, like this was way down, or that didn't grow, or that because it's got to be. We saw the same play, a few months back when we had Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman come in. And it was also that the lead topic of a conference call could be, the numbers are down, but here we're made a change. We're making a drastic change. We're doing this sort of stuff to try
preemptive changes.
To try to kind of cover up any of the issues, and that it worked for a little bit with the Bischoff Heyman thing, and then obviously Bischoff.
Don't worry, stockholders were taking action, as you can see.
Exactly. Unfortunately, as we're recording this, their stock is down 20% the day of, so that might bounce right back. I mean, the stock market.
That's the thing. That's what happens. Because that's not unusual. That's going to happen when you get rid of, like I said, two of arguably the three most important people in the company. There's investor confidence is lost in the immediate, and then so I wouldn't read too much into that. But no, it's not good. Right.
But I was going to say, so you have that coming up. I think it'd be stupid not to ignore the idea that, in 10 days, the XFL is starting, or it might be 9 days as we're recording this. Like, that is right on the heels. And that's always been a weird thing. Obviously, WWE said, I'm sure Vince brought it up in a meeting. I don't know the exact way that it worked out, but like essentially Vince had to create his own company to get this thing going because WWE had wanted nothing to do with it, which I'm sure was Barrios and Wilson and all those people on the board saying, no way, no, we don't want to lose a bunch of money on this shit.
Well, I think Vince was smart enough too.
Yeah, exactly, to realize I don't need to dip out of this pot. Like, let me go to my own pot, and if it fails, and it doesn't drive this other company.
What's interesting though is there's always the perception that it's the same though, because people just associate Vince McMahon with both.
Right.
So there's still the perception issue, even if it's not necessarily, hitting on the same bottom lines or anything like that. But I still think there's people who associate them as joined at the hip. Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the address, well, it helps. It doesn't help that the address is like the same. Or I think it's like this empty lot across the street or whatever. That's the official address of Alpha Entertainment or whatever. But yeah, they get the mail goes in the same place. Listen, it's like my line of work where, a franchisee wants to build another restaurant somewhere, but he's not quite sure for whatever reason whether it's going to work out. So, we'll just do a new LLC. That way, if it fails, it doesn't matter. But all the money's going to the same, the same bottom line. But it's like it's kind of a fail safe. I mean, I'm simplifying it, of course. Right. So,
and again, I'm not saying that might be. It's just the idea that the timing of this is strange enough to make me think, okay, maybe that has a little bit of a part in this. Whatever little part it might. But there's a lot of things that it could be. It's obviously week out from a conference call, where obviously some numbers came back that weren't good, or all the numbers came back or whatever it was. I also think, it'd be silly not to think that, and again, I have we know nothing. We know the press release that came out, and that's all we know. But I do wonder as well, and you mentioned maybe this is AEW driven, maybe it's just driven overall, but there's no way that Fox can be happy with the numbers that they're getting for SmackDown either. SmackDown is doing raw numbers. And that's not because SmackDown's on Fox. That should not be happening. And I know that obviously in the demos they're still doing okay, and there's all this other stuff. But I can't imagine that that's a cheery relationation right now either.
Rich, we don't even have the hardcore mentals popping in our mentions to defend the ratings anymore because they're indefensible. It's just they're not good. They're good enough to where Fox is still able to barely win the demo on Friday nights. And here's the thing, they're going to crush the demo in the summers.
Right.
So that's where Fox, that's really, but there's no question Fox was expecting to do better in the fall than they should never be, in a dead heat tie with Hawaii 5-0 in the demo. They were expecting to just crush everybody in the demo. And they not only get smashed in total viewers, they finish like 7th, 8th, 9th in total viewers most weeks on Fox, but they're barely winning the demo, and sometimes they're not even outright winning the demo. So no, I don't think anyone would say that Fox is thrilled with the results. Let's put it that way.
Right. And again, I have no idea if that's causing this or whatever, but the suddenness of this, especially with people that have been there for 10 years, I think Barrios was 2008, I want to say, and Wilson was 2009. And yeah, both of them, whatever you want to say about them, they spearheaded and were in charge and were, one of the top, as you said, one of the three more important people in that company that drove the WWE network, that drove these TV deals, that drove all this other stuff. So yeah, to out of nowhere fire, there's got to be there's got to be something there. And the fact that it's both of them as well, it's not Barrios is out and Wilson's moving up, or Wilson's moving up and Barrios is deciding to take, another, position at another company. The fact that both of them out, effective immediately, I don't know. We'll find out. We might sound like idiots because it might come out, later in the night or whatever. Yeah, but yeah, I'm clamoring to hear what this was that was like immediate. I mean, it might be nothing. It might just be that both of them decided to move on, or the Vince decided we needed to change, or it might be something monumental. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, they could, in essence, be some scapegoats too. Because to me, it all comes down to the creative and the product that you're putting on TV. And I don't know there's much that George Barrios can do about that, but I don't feel bad for either one of them. I mean, they're both rich beyond.
Oh God, dude! I think Barrios cashed out recently on like a half of his stock or 20% of his stock or whatever, and it was on a godly number. So yeah, I think
this isn't your neighbor
he's
across
okay.
the street.
Yeah, he'll be all right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, this isn't your neighbor across the street who's an accountant who got laid off. I mean, George Barrios will be okay. Okay, don't worry about George Barrios. Every week I talk to you about this too all the time. Like I happen to know my garbage men because I wait for them and I have conversations with them and talk to them. And I've been having new garbage men come to my house every week. And then I wonder about the old guys and I worry about them. Like, oh man, what happened to Leon? Leon was my garbage man for like 3 years and then he just disappeared. Right? I used to have conversations with him, give him Christmas tips because there's a strict number of bags you can put out. And I always put out more bags than the number. So I go out there and talk to the guy and I'm friendly with him. And,
grease him up a little bit. Yeah.
Extra bags. Yeah, absolutely. And then I got to know him a little bit just because I'm talking to the guy every week. And then he disappeared. And it's like, what the fuck happened to Leon? Like, I feel bad for Leon. I don't know. Maybe Leon hit the lottery and I shouldn't feel bad for him, but Leon might have lost his job. That's a guy, or the guy across the street, or maybe your neighbor. Don't feel bad for George Barrios, okay, and Michelle Wilson. They're going to be fine. Believe me. They probably cut him a nice little check to go away too, and plus all that stock that they own and everything else. They don't have to work another day in their lives. So they might be scapegoats here, because to me, WWE's business and all of their struggles, to me, all boils down to the fact that the product fucking stinks. And that's what's running people off. I don't think it's necessarily the business strategies. Okay. The only business strategy that can increase network subscriptions, for instance, is putting on good shows on Mondays and Fridays. Right,
exactly. It was the thing, and you remember that quote when they launched the WWE Network and we were not sure how many people they'd get and all this sort of stuff, and you and I both said, the best way to get new subscribers is have a good wrestling product to get people to watch it. It's like, it's as basic and bare and melted down. But yeah, like WWE does a lot of really cool stuff, and they I think they market very well, and they do that. But it all comes down to the fact that, if you have a shit TV show that nobody wants to watch, then you can work your ass off on all this other stuff. But it's never going to matter if on Mondays and Fridays nobody wants to watch your shitty product. So
yeah.
So a quote came out from Variety from Vince McMahon, and again, like this. So this is from WrestleNomics 2 minutes ago. By the way, at WrestleNomics, you want to follow them this week for sure.
Yeah,
you want to follow Brandon. He actually just released, advantageous enough, an industry report for WWE or pro wrestling, I should say, pro wrestling industry report.
Like 48 pages, right?
Exactly, 48 pages of graphs and nerd. So if you're into this, if this conversation is exciting you, go to at WrestleNomics or follow at WrestleNomics on Twitter and download that ebook. Yeah, it's 48 pages.
Did you get into that a little bit? I looked at it a little bit.
Yeah, I did. I tried to dive in a little bit, but now, more than ever, I want to dive in. I guess I waited too long to do it, and now it's all over.
I'm like, this is heavy material. I need to really set aside it.
Yeah, it's not something you could just kind of scroll while you're on the can or whatever. It's something you got to really work. But anyway, this quote from Vince McMahon is, quote, "I am grateful for all that was accomplished during their tenure, but the board and I decided a change was necessary as we have different views on how to best achieve our strategic priorities moving forward." So
so he fucking fired them. That's
there you go.
They're fired. That's a very nice way of saying that they were shit-canned. So, at least we didn't waste 20 minutes of audio to find out that they both retired or something. But big news. See what they get replaced with, and see what kind of vision these people have. And it's going to be interesting. When's the date of the call? The call's coming up.
I believe it's next February. What are they usually, Thursdays? I thought it was February 6th. I think it's Thursday, February 6th. But
and I think that's for the fourth quarter, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So that's the quarter. I think, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe that's the quarter where we find out exactly what they're getting from USA for NXT.
Right.
Right?
I believe so, yeah.
And there's some rumblings, Rich, Well, first of all, we found out that already that the $50 million is bullshit. I think someone reported that it's closer to $30 million. So right off the bat, the $50 million that came out was found to be bullshit. But we have heard that there's rumblings in the industry that they're not getting anything from USA for NXT. And we were told, wait for that quarter when that becomes clear to see. Because there's a lot of people inside wrestling and TV who think that the total is that they're actually getting nothing.
Right.
And that the public facing, oh, yeah, we're getting X amount of dollars was just sort of, which is interesting because then, I mean, not that we don't already know this, but then that's just such blatant we know it's counter programming.
Right,
anyway.
right. Well, I mean, yeah, anybody that's smart enough knows that, yeah, that's absolutely what it is. And,
right. But if they're
and
truly
total
nothing,
speculation here, but it could be like Barrios and Wilson going like, why are we wasting money on this shit? Like, who cares? But Vince McMahon doesn't work that way because he fucking cares. The business end of WWE doesn't really give to, like you said, does the AEW stuff matter? To Michelle Wilson and George Barrios and the other Frank A. Riddick III, no, probably not. They don't give a shit.
They're number crunchers.
Yeah, they don't give two fucks about AEW or any competition in the marketplace. But Vince McMahon, no, he does. Where those guys are like, no, man, let's worry about, overseas TV deals and all this sort of shit. But yeah, I mean, for right or wrong, though, Vince McMahon does give a shit a lot about competition. Or
maybe people are telling him, hey, maybe not oversaturate your fan base with product just to take a couple tens of thousands of viewers away from these other guys,
right.
And maybe this isn't the best strategy. And yeah, you're not, that kind of conversation is never going to win over Vince McMahon, who, as we know, he's had a strategy for decades of crushing the competition, and that means going and particularly what he learned from what Turner did to him. So, well, who knows? That's all speculation.
Yeah,
but it's going to be a really interesting quarterly call from multiple perspectives now. One that. And of course, WrestleNomics covers those live, and we try to live tweet them too, even though, we're out there slaving away at the day jobs when they're going on. But we still try to. That's right. Not
also, we don't know what we're talking about, like more times than not. Like we kind of know, but like we're just like, oh, that doesn't sound good. But Brandon actually knows, so that's like,
Hey, listen, man, I got a 401k. I know what I'm talking about here. Right. No, but yeah, WrestleNomics is where you're going to get. The best analysis pretty much anywhere, quite honestly, when it comes to that stuff. So it's always days like this where he gets the nice plug-a-roos.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he's doing well today. Today is a good day for him. Well, we thought this was going to be the lead story this week, but it's actually not. Another huge change in Pro Wrestling management here. Pro Wrestling Noah has been sold to CyberAgent. That's the same company that owns DDT. So here's a little bit of the nuts and bolts of this. So as we know, and we talked about it as well, 75% of Noah was sold to Lidit. Is that how you pronounce it? Lidet, I believe it's Lidit, whatever.
In my head, I say Lidet, but
Lidet.
It might
okay,
be
that works. Lidet, let it, whatever, which doesn't matter because they don't fucking own any company anymore. Eastby was the owners prior to that. They sold 75% of it to Lidet. Didn't matter because CyberAgent now has acquired 100% ownership of Noah. People that don't know, CyberAgent, publicly traded company. They specialize, they're advertising and marketing, and they've also been involved in PC, mobile games, mobile content, and all that sort of stuff. The big news wrestling fans care about, though, CyberAgent purchased DDT in 2017, and now will be leading the two companies. But the idea is that the two companies are going to be working together as well. Senshiro Takagi will serve as president of both DDT and Noah, while Nomichi Marufuji is listed as the executive vice president of Noah as well. Takagi is designated to be working on the business end and leave the creative day-to-day to Marufuji and former Noah president Takeda as well. So there's some other nuts and bolts. Do you want me to go over some of the other little stuff here, or do you want to react first?
First this. Takagi, of course, who wrestling fans should be familiar with, DDT wrestler / the big boss man in DDT. He's now the president, of course, of Noah as well, as you just laid out, with Marufuji as the vice president. Somebody, and I don't remember who it was, sorry for not crediting you, it's not intentional, compared Marufuji, they called Marufuji to Japanese Jeff Jarrett. He just always wins. And it's
it's true.
It's very apt. Every time you think Marufuji's like on his way out of relevance, something like this happens. But Noah has been bouncing around to different ownership groups. Most recently, Lidet here. You remember the whole thing where New Japan had an ownership stake, and then they were in a hostile takeover, bumped out, and then Lidet, and now they're out of the picture. And CyberAgent, of course, which also owns DDT, and they own Abema TV or Amoeba TV, the Japanese streaming service. And it's very comparable. It's a very comparable situation to Sinclair, whereas like if Sinclair really wanted to and put their muscle behind their pro wrestling, Vince McMahon, could be fucked, because Sinclair can buy and sell Vince McMahon. It's kind of the same situation in Japan where CyberAgent, by any description, if they wanted to, could just bully Bushiroad. And, they're just larger than Bushiroad by many multiples, but they have their hands in so many things that wrestling isn't their priority the way that the wrestling is Bushiroad's priority, or the way that wrestling is Vince McMahon's priority. Whereas Sinclair, wrestling is never going to be their priority. But there are some parallels there. And what it does mean is Noah is now part of a much more stable ownership group that has done a good job with DDT. And clearly CyberAgent believes in wrestling, because this is now the second pro wrestling company that they've purchased over the last, 2 years? How long ago was it when they bought?
2017, so yeah.
Right, so over the last 3 years. And we're already seeing some corporate synergy where, on DDT Universe, they just aired a Noah show a few hours ago. And the Noah logos are already on the DDT Universe page. There's already a Noah landing page on the DDT Universe site. So, and those are all good things for Noah. If you're a pro wrestling Noah fan, I don't know how this can be spun as bad news. I mean, and if you read some of the quotes from some of the people involved here, a lot of them were ominous. It was like, look, we were, basically just, I'm paraphrasing, but they were essentially just treading water. And, could have gone under at any time under the previous ownership. And it really shows you how bad the reality is for a lot of these Japanese promotions that aren't New Japan or DDT or Dragon Gate. I'm sure all Japan is in the same boat when you look at their business and the fact that their business actually declined last year over year from the year before. These promotions barely hang on, and promotions like Noah and All Japan, they have the history and the lineage and the prestige based on their names, but they're essentially indies. They're large indies, and they struggle. And they can go out of business at any time once whoever the money people are decide they're tired of losing money. And it's very perilous. So this is good news for Noah, because now they're part of a much more stable situation and a giant company that's going to support them and get behind them if the way they've treated DDT is any indication. Takagi, very smart man. And I thought it was very smart that Takagi said at the presser, look, I'm just here for business reasons. The wrestling end is still, that's their baby. So you're not going to see Takagi getting involved in creative directions or the booking or decisions on who, and by all indications, Nosawa Rangai remains the booker. And I don't see why that wouldn't be the case, because as we now know, this deal has been in the works for many months. So if CyberAgent or Takagi or anybody on the parent company side had issue with Nosawa Rangai, he would have been out a long time ago. So I thought the kind of panic over his position, because he's done a good job as booker and people were worried. But I thought that panic was kind of, if you think about it for a second, that there's no justification for that panic, because he would have been gone already. It's very clear this deal has been in the works.
Right. Once the ball's rolling, like they would have said, hey, launch this guy in December, and then, we'll announce it when we announce it, but let's get a guy in that we want. Yeah, that happens all the time. Like you notice, like, it happens in any sort of corporate takeover or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like guys lose their job well before pen goes to paper. It's official that this thing is going. But like, yeah, it's a handshake agreement. Hey, we're going to buy you. But like, hey, we need these guys out. We want this guy in the place. Yeah, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, he would have been long gone if they really thought that he was doing a terrible job or that he needed to be replaced. So
right. So I don't anticipate him being gone, especially the way everything was framed at the presser, where they're staying out of the wrestling end, and that's up to them. Which also tells you that Takagi and CyberAgent are confident in the product itself and the directions that the product is moving in, which they should be, because we've talked about it. Noah, especially under the new booker, has really felt more stable, and it felt like they're moving in better directions. So that all makes a lot of sense.
Do you 100% believe them when they say that they will not get involved? Like, I know that maybe that's a good thing to say right now, but is it something that is easy to say now when everyone's happy-go-lucky, but if something goes wrong in Noah or the numbers go down, that they don't slide in there, or that he doesn't have something more to do with it? I
mean, yeah. I mean, that's sure. I mean, it could just be corporate speak. I'm sure, yeah, that's definitely a possibility. But for now, I guess we just got to take them at their word. I'm just reading the same translated quotes that everybody else is reading.
Right.
I don't understand the nuance behind it. There was one person, and I'm not going to say who it was because he wasn't comfortable enough tweeting out the translation because he was afraid he might have lost some of the nuance. But there was one person who told me that at one point Takagi had brought up Bushiroad and said something to the effect that, we're gunning for Bushiroad, but he wasn't comfortable tweeting that translation because he didn't know the nuance, or was there a hint of sarcasm? Was there, you know what I mean? So there's sometimes with translations, you're not getting the full scope of what the person's trying to put across. Things get lost in translation. That's why that's why people say that. So yeah, of course it's a possibility. Yeah. I mean, it might be like you're saying, it's what you say at a presser when everybody's happy, or just to make sure that everybody remains calm, because a lot of the wrestlers were caught off guard. A lot of the Noah wrestlers were tweeting that they had no idea this was coming.
Yeah.
Which obviously wouldn't be the case with Marufuji and the guys who were in any sort of positions of power. They obviously knew. Marufuji didn't get a call 2 days ago saying, you're going to be,
you're now the executive vice president.
Yeah. I mean, that's absurd. So, but the wrestlers, your grunts, your foot soldiers, your Kanoes and whatnot, they don't know what the fuck's going on. They didn't know until 2 days ago. So, again, I think this is positive for Noah. I think now at least we know they're on stable ground, and that's important. And as far as if you're just a wrestling fan that doesn't care about the business end of things, this is good news for you too if you're a Noah fan, because when you're a promotion that's on stable ground with solid financial backing, and you're not looking over your shoulder, and you're not worried about whether you're going to be in business 6 months from now, it also helps from the creative end and the wrestling end, because you don't feel as panicked to change direction if something's not working. You can be more patient if you believe in a certain direction, because a couple of bad Corkins aren't going to put you out of business.
Right.
You know what I mean? So from that perspective, even just from a straight up, what kind of product are you going to get now? It's always better to have stable ownership and know that your next paycheck, when you know that your next paycheck's not in danger of being your last.
Yeah, some other stuff too that you talked about from wrestling fans' standpoint is obviously the streaming aspect of this is huge. That Noah, already as of today, I mean, God, as we're recording this morning, Noah had a show on DDT Universe for free. It says right now the plan is for DDT Universe to carry 1 to 2 Noah shows per month. And as you said, you go to the DDT Universe, there's already a section for Noah as well. Back-to-back nights, Sumo Hall, November 21st and 22nd. As well for DDT and Noah, and that Noah will still be featured on Samurai TV and G+, but also Abima TV as well, starting in February to start streaming. So way more access to be able to watch Noah, watch it live, which is obviously good, and it makes DDT Universe almost like a must buy as well, because you're getting DDT and Noah, and this is the part that I want to talk to you a little bit about is. We have no idea the relationships and the borders or whatnot between DDT and Noah, but I think there was some quotes out there, and again, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, that the relationship would also, that there would be some wrestler relationships as well. I mean, the companies will be ran separately, but that it's obvious. I mean, you look at any Japanese promotion, and anytime they have any sort of agreement with another company, you always see talent exchanges and guys going back and forth, and that sounds great to me, because there are a lot of guys in DDT that I think would excel in Noah, and I think, Noah guys and DDT would be, I mean, it's just like, it's a win-win for both companies as well. They're obviously, diametrically different, pro wrestling companies, but I could see this relationship really being fruitful for a lot of reasons. DDT could send guys to Noah to get a little bit of seasoning and come back, and just the relationships between the two. I'm super excited about seeing a lot of guys, moving back and forth, or maybe a few month excursions out there, or title reigns, or anything like that. I mean, there's just guys that just jump out at me, and you tweeted out immediately in the interim. It's like, Higuchi going to Noah is like, oh my God, we've been talking about that for years. It's like, I mean, the greatest thing for him ever is like this just big brute that just kind of seems out of place in DDT. I mean, the dude rolls into Noah tomorrow and feels and looks like a different wrestler. But yeah, there's a lot of guys that has me pretty excited, and I know you've been talking about that a little bit as well.
Well, if you do a ton of crossover, then in reality, then they're not separate companies. So it's not like I would expect massive crossover all of the time, but it's very similar to New Japan and Stardom in that if New Japan wants to put Stardom matches on their shows, it's now exponentially easier than it was before Bushiroad owned Stardom. It's the same thing here. If you want to do those sorts of things, now they're super easy because you're all owned by the same parent owner. So if you want to do joint show, or you want to, give a guy a change of scenery and have him, work somewhere else, but not lose him entirely, those things just become easier. Right. Sending big stars to one or the other just to prop up a show or prop up business, those things all become easier. So it's something very similar to the New Japan Stardom relationship, where it's something that's very easily done that you now have in your back pocket, which again makes everything a little more comfortable in terms of, we know we have this thing that you don't want to over rely on it, because if you're telling people these are two different promotions and two different companies, if you do too much in the way of crossover, then it just feels like one big company.
Right.
And so you don't want to ever overdo something like that or whatnot. But with this way, the possibility's there, and it's easy to do if you want to do it. They are running the back-to-back Sumo Hall shows. I don't know if you mentioned that.
I did, yeah.
In November. So, very ambitious. DDT, even as strong as they are, they're never a lock to do great in a building that size, let alone Noah. So, we'll see what Noah builds to. I think that's in November, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, I mentioned the dates earlier. It was November 21st and November 22nd is the back-to-back Sumo Hall days. So,
and then Noah presence on Peter Pan, I know was discussed. And, see, for your biggest shows like that, I think it's something that you should do. You just don't want to overdo it. It's the kind of thing you have in your back pocket, but, it's, you also want to wait and see, if Noah gets treated like the little brother in a relationship, then that's not a good thing. But the early signs, at least, are very encouraging. And I think if Nosawa Rongai was going to be out, we would know that by now. I think he either would have been, replaced before. Look, they may have had a hand in putting him in the position.
That's possible. Yeah, we don't know how far back this went. I think the most encouraging thing for me was that immediately, like the day that this got announced, Noah was all over the place. They had the free show announced. They had a section on the DT universe. Like, if you're not happy with the company and you're not happy with the way it looks or whatever, you buy it and say, okay, here's where. And again, this may have been what happened over the last 6 months or whatever. I don't know, but like, you don't buy it and immediately go, hey, we got this new company. Like you might hide it a little bit and say, okay, we want this done and we want that done and we want that done, and then we'll deem you worthy enough to join our service, or then we'll get all this stuff out here. The fact that like from day one it was like, hey, Noah's in and here's a logo and they're on our website and they're all over the place. Like, to me, I read that as we're at least in some way proud or happy of what they're doing, but we're just glad to have them under our wing now, versus we're saving this company that was about to die and we need a lot of changes to get this thing back on track or whatever. That's not something I think you immediately, it seemed like they were pretty proud of having Noah under their umbrella right away, where, I don't know if it would be the case if they thought that A, the company sucked, or B, that the company was, is in as dire of a situation, even though we know that they were in a dire financial situation. But in terms of like creative and wrestling wise, I'm led to believe by all the stuff that I've read and seen so far that they're pretty happy with it. So, yeah.
And CyberAgent wants content for their Amoeba TV gimmick, and obviously DDT has done well for them in that regard. And we're seeing sort of now with these two moves, with Bushiroad buying Stardom and CyberAgent now owning or being the parent company of two different wrestling promotions. This is, to me, also the ripple effects of WWE Japan, which is, eventually going to happen. We know that Triple H met with Dragon Gate and was told to kiss off. We know that. And there was a lot of talk that they met with Noah and that didn't work out. And now we know why. I mean, Ledette went in a different direction. Ledette, give them credit. I mean, they came in, they gave the company a new coat of paint, new logo, new colors. They moved away from, from the green and from all of the old, over the past decade or so that the company has been sliding downhill. So they gave the company a fresh coat of paint. They got it moving in the right direction, and then they flipped it and probably made a nice profit off of it. So from that perspective, nice job out of them. They just may not have been the right company to take it to the next level, and CyberAgent may be. But you see these Bushiroad and CyberAgent sort of bracing for the impact that WWE is going to bring. And, we know WWE wants to partner with someone because they've attempted it, but they're running out of options now.
Right. They've had they've had Dragon Gate and Noah both told them to, move on.
Right. And what they're running into in Japan, on top of just the cultural differences that weren't as pronounced in Europe as they are in Japan, on top of the cultural differences and the business differences, what they're running into are strong corporate entities that control the wrestling in Japan, as opposed to the UK, where they were dealing with independent promotions that were either easy to bully or easy to coerce, or were just enamored with the idea of doing business with them. Whereas in Japan, you're not running into that. It's like you sit down at the table with Dragon Gate. Those guys haven't been waiting their whole lives to do business with you the way that maybe the guys that own Progress
the letterhead doesn't do anything for Mochizuki doesn't really give a shit about the WWE letterhead. So
in fact, they're just probably more weary and cautious of you rather than welcoming, the way that some of the promotions in the UK were. And then when you're dealing with giant corporate monoliths like Bushiroad and CyberAgent, they're not going to just fall over for Vince McMahon. They don't care. They're businessmen just like he is, So that's another barrier now that they have to face. And it seems as though, if the rumors of late last year are to be believed, if they're going to work with another promotion, it might just come down to Big Japan, since we know that, or we don't know, but it was rumored that Daisuke Sekimoto was at least opening to talking with them and was making those mysterious trips to the United States and working those weird indie shows last year, remember? And everyone was like, wow, that's random. But he was meeting with WWE. And so it's like, but Big Japan is such an awkward partner for them with the deathmatch stuff.
Yeah, it's not ideal. I mean, we talked about it. I mean, I would think the most ideal company to me would probably have been Noah from the beginning, because it felt like a company that at least does similar style wrestling to what WWE does. It's not a perfect one-on-one, and they're not going to find that really in Japan. But Noah made the most sense. Dragon Gate is a very different style, a very different approach to the wrestling business. That relationship was probably
but a strong television connection with Gaora and all that. So there were things that were probably attractive to WWE when it comes to Dragon Gate.
Right, but that meeting room or that table, that was never going to happen. Noah always felt like, ooh, okay, like Noah I could see. Because we knew that they weren't in good financial state, and we knew that because they've been bought and sold, 3-4 times now in the last 5 years or whatever, and
business isn't great. I mean, we see attendance,
right? So it always felt like, hey, if there's this big offer on the table, that the company that would be most likely to say, yeah, you know what, fine, we're not going anywhere anyway, or things aren't going well. We're like, Ledet doesn't care. They have no real stake in the game other than, as we've seen here, buy and sell and try to get a good profit on it or whatever. So yeah, it made the most sense that they might be that company, and that's what it kind of came down to. And I see a lot of people negative on this, and people, oh no, yeah, like your options were get sold to WWE or get sold to CyberAgent. Like it didn't. Ledet, nobody. There wasn't going to be some white knight that was going to come here and buy Noah. Mirufuji was going to pile up a bunch of money and say, you know what, I'll lead us to the next, that wasn't going to happen. So yeah, your options were die, get sold to WWE, or get sold to CyberAgent. I'll take C any day over A and B, and that's what happened. And yeah, we're left now with, okay, who in this marketplace is left for WWE to come into? I mean, you got Dragon Gate is a no, Noah's a no, New Japan's obviously a no, Stardom, that obviously is a no now too. So it's like, yeah, there's not okay.
And there's a lot of speculation that on top of Bushiroad and CyberAgent feeling like Stardom and Noah are just good investments, that it's also blocking WWE from getting their claws into Stardom or getting their claws into Noah and partnering with Stardom's another one they could have partnered with, and now that's off the table as well. So you have two promotions that were prime targets to be partnered with off of the table. And, Bushiroad and CyberAgent, they're not stupid. They know WWE's coming, and they know that this makes it exponentially harder for them to do so. They're either going to have to do it on their own, which is going to be very difficult to break into this market without having the advantage of being linked up with an established promotion, or their options now are severely limited. All Japan, I mean, they are in the same boat that Noah was in. I mean, they are not stable at all. Just look at their attendance. They're scaling back on the sizes of the buildings they're running this year after having negative attendance growth last year. So, and then Big Japan, which is stylistically, I heard somebody pitched Wrestle One, and at first I disregarded it because they're just basically the equivalent of a small indie, but it's Muda, and that could be attractive for both WWE and for Muda.
Yeah,
because someone called Marufuji the Jeff Jarrett of Japan. The real Jeff Jarrett of Japan is Muda.
Yeah, who's literally quite literally the Jeff Jarrett of Japan, Great Muda.
Yeah, and it's like, WWE would probably love to roll out WWE Japan with Muda as the face of the thing, and Muda would probably be open to having them come in and make him a deal to get him out of
absolutely. 100%. Yeah. You don't think Muda's going to say, no, this means too much to me. This Wrestle One means too much to me.
No, I mean, his MO, his whole career has been to flip things and make deals, and he's the Jarrett of Japan. So that's an interesting one.
That one I like a lot better. The Big Japan, I know that the Sakamoto thing is there. I know that I cannot even just fathom, Paul Levesque and Canyon Seaman like sitting there, at the back of a Death Vegas show going, yeah, this is very good, very good. Like, you know what I mean?
Right,
like, I can't buy that. I could buy them doing it at Wrestle One, because Wrestle One stylistically, no, it's not a perfect fit, but like, God, it's a much better fit than Big Japan. Like, the Big Japan.
You got to answer to look. Triple H just spent all that time telling people publicly, we only work with promotions in the UK that are safe and do things the right way.
Here's a guy putting a fucking syringe in another guy's cheek. Yeah,
you can't spin that. So it's like, it's just such a weird style fit, because once if investors or American media got a whiff of what Big Japan's doing over there, now you have to answer all of those questions. It just doesn't feel like a corporate fit.
That's why Barrios and Wilson are out. There you go. We broke the case.
Yeah, they
saw announced the relationship with Big Japan, and they were like, "Nope, we're done."
Yeah, exactly.
I'm joking, of course. Or maybe I'm not. I don't know.
So maybe Wrestle One, but Wrestle One has just such a small footprint. I mean, they're a non-entity.
At that point, I would almost rather just try to roll it out on your own. Like, I think both are failures. I think both are unmitigated failures. I think the whole NXT Japan thing is going to be a failure, regardless of how they do it. But I would almost think that if you resign yourself to, all right, we're partnering with Wrestle One, like that, I almost feel like just do it on your own then. Just fail on your own at that point. And maybe or if you want to buy it just so you can say that Muta's in charge of it or whatever, and he has a dojo and all.
Well, here's what you get. I guess, you get Muta, and you get a core stable of wrestlers to start building off of. You get a Naba and you get a Shino, and you get your Andy Woos, whoever
and
else they
have to do that, because you can't really start on your own, because you can't pluck guys wrestlers either, because guys are not going to leave. Yeah, so
exactly, that's the whole thing. This is part of the big reason they need to link up with someone, because they need a core roster. And you'll get that with Wrestle One, and they've got some attractive looking wrestlers there. No one, I think, can be a breakout international star or anything like that, but your Inabas and your Ashinos and some of the other guys they have there. They have some nice junior heavyweights in Wrestle One. I'm not even sure they have their own dojo. Are they one of those promotions that shares the dojo with like 2 or 3 other promotions? Because I'm not even
positive, to be honest.
A listener can tell us. Listener can tell us. But I think they share a dojo with 2 or 3 other promotions. They don't even have their own dojo, which would be an advantage of a Big Japan or some of these other promotions we're talking about, where they have their own dojo and they do their own training. But does WWE want those deathmatch guys? They wouldn't even want them. I mean, they are of no value to WWE, the deathmatch wrestlers. And even the strong wrestlers aren't necessarily what WWE likes to present. I mean, stylistically, the Wrestle One wrestlers are a much better fit. So I don't know. Have we talked ourselves into Wrestle One?
I think so. When I heard, I saw that someone mentioning that, it immediately piqued my interest a little bit more, because the Big Japan thing always felt weird. Like I said, where when someone said Wrestle One, I was like, all right, yeah, that's a roster of like good looking, presentable. Because I think like all in all, like and again, WWE is an aesthetic company. They always will be. And you look at the Big Japan roster. No offense, like I love those guys, but they're just a bunch of either deathmatch guys or big beefcake dudes. Like they're not really
it's a grinding promotion.
They're not really attractive. But like you got the Wrestle One guys. There's a lot of guys that can wear the hell out of a suit in that company. And
Absolutely.
yeah, stylistically it makes sense in terms of the style of wrestling they do. You have the Muta connection in there, which, that is attractive to an American fan base as well as the Japanese fan base is saying, hey, Great Muta's running this thing or whatever, or he's in charge of it or whatnot. But yeah, it all seems to fit a little bit better. Guys, that look a little bit more the part to what WWE thinks the part needs to look like. And yeah, stylistically it looks a little bit better. It's just the idea is that, yeah, you're partnering with a company that's pretty much a non-entity, but if that's your only option that's left on the table and the choices are Big Japan or Wrestle One, if I'm WWE, I choose Wrestle One for sure over that.
Yeah, if it's just about getting a core roster and getting Muta to front the thing, to be the face of the thing, and just to get your foot in the door, it's probably the best option. And here's the thing: when they do come to Japan, whether it's linking up with someone or on their own, there are going to be jumps. I hate to break people's hearts. Like, I don't think there's going to be massive amounts of jumps, but you're going to have your Akira Tozawas and your Jiros and other people like that who do have that WWE dream in Japan. Okay. It's not going to be as widespread as you saw in the UK where basically everybody wanted in. I don't think you're going to get that, but I do believe WWE will be able to pluck a couple of guys from each promotion. I do see that happening. I just don't think it'll be this kind of situation where it just completely depletes the scene and destroys everybody else because there's nobody else left. But yeah, there's guys over there with the WWE dream, and there's guys over there who are businessmen who may see this as a good business move, or wow, I get my foot in the door WWE, maybe I can move to America, headline WrestleMania. You know how wrestlers are. They all hit that pillow at night thinking they're going to headline WrestleMania and make tens of millions of dollars. So you're going to have wrestlers who are businessmen who think it's a good business move, and you're going to have some who do have that dream because we've seen them make that jump already. Why wouldn't they do it if it's in their own backyard?
Right. So,
I do think there would be, look at Daisuke Sekimoto. Who would ever thought that guy would have designed, but he's listening, so it's, and Miko Satomura, apparently, there's lots of talk. She would be part of this thing. So, and then people like that, like Satomura and Sekimoto, they have a sphere of influence. They have young wrestlers that they trained. They have young wrestlers who came up with them who they would be able to coerce into taking those sorts of deals too. So in terms of building a roster, I don't think they'd have as much trouble as other people seem to think they would. I think they'd be able to build a roster. Where I think they would struggle is just doing business in that country and that environment because it's so different than anything else they've ever encountered.
Exactly. Yeah, and you mentioned at the top, like a lot less people are marks for the letterhead, and the logo or whatever. I mean, there are still, like you said, there are still the people that want the dream, but yeah, nothing like in the UK where all those people grew up watching WWE, and the second WWE said, "Hey, we want to help you," they went, "Oh, great, yeah, that's awesome."
Hey, and don't forget, they have an entire stable of Japanese wrestlers already under their employ that they can move over there.
Exactly, right.
Whether it's Shinsuke Nakamura or Akira Tozawa. I'm talking big stars, Io Shirai. I mean, you go right down the line, Asuka. Okay, so listen, people seem to think the one thing I hear a lot is, they'd never be able to build a roster. I think that's total bullshit. I think they already have a roster.
Right, they can't build it from scratch, but they could build a roster.
They have an in-house Japanese roster. And whoever you link up with, you're getting a core roster.
Right.
And you have people like Satomura and Sekimoto who are going to bring their people. But listen, roster building is not the issue with this if it does happen. But I do think, getting back to our original topic, this is clearly CyberAgent and Bushiroad protecting themselves from the WWE machine coming into their backyard.
Absolutely. So, yeah, cool news there, and we'll see what goes on over the next few weeks and months. But, yeah, Noah's going to be a lot easier to watch moving forward. And as I said, makes DDT Universe a real good pickup as well, because there's some other promotions on there as well. And yeah, it's a pretty cool service. Of the times I have jumped in and gotten it, usually around Peter Pan time or whatnot, it works well. And yeah, it's one that I'm probably now going to officially pick up and just keep around in my stable of streaming networks that I just hold on to for ever, basically. I just realized I had OTT for like the last 8 months without even knowing it. So I always forget I have Dragon Gate too. I do, but I don't know why I don't I need to do better about checking into these services that I have. And that's
you order these things. You order these things to watch one show, and then you just don't cancel them, and then you don't forget that you have them.
Yeah, a lot of these companies have gotten Dragon Gate got like 6 months where I legitimately did not remember that I had Dragon Gate. I would like try to find these shows, via other means or whatever. And I'm like, you dumbass, you have the service. Just go watch it. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm paying for this.
You moron.
Why am I stealing?
Stupid. Anyway, there we go. So that's 2 huge changes. Pro Wrestling Management. We thought it would just be 1, but instead it's 2 here. Nothing new. I've been checking and refreshing. Nothing new from the WWE end as well as we're recording. So more stuff will come out. I know I did see that Brandon is doing an emergency WrestleNomics as well. So I don't know when that's going to drop. It'll obviously drop after most people are listening to this. Maybe before. I don't know. But either way, WrestleNomics and the Voice Wrestling Podcast Network will have all the details on everything going on with that as well. But let's move on to some other stuff in the wrestling world. Before we do that, though, we do want to let you know this episode is sponsored by our friends at Grapple. And we've been talking about Grapple a lot over the last year. It is an app on the that you can download for your phone, and you can do wrestling ratings as they happen, review a show, watch a show live, punch your ratings in, see what other people are rating, see what the best matches of the year were, all that really good stuff. We've been talking about it time and time again. We do want to let you know they did launch a new website as well, grappleapp.com, and there's blog posts on there as well, some short articles that dive into some stuff, some matches that maybe got better ratings than most people expected, top 10 women's matches, top 10 tag matches, some other stuff up there, doing a lot of year-end stuff as well, kind of wrapping up 2019 as we're doing our match of the year as well. And there's also the Grapple 100 as well, their 100 best matches as voted on by the Grapple app. So you can see all that at grappleapp.com, and we're also going to integrate them into our reviews later in the show as well. So you hear a little bit of what the ratings were, but yeah, it's a great app. It's one that I use every single day. Every time I watch a show, I'm punching in the Grapple app, punching in my ratings, seeing what other people are doing, and yeah, we've the support of our listeners has been huge to Grapple as well. We hope they continue downloading it and continue using the site as well. So and also anything any feedback as well, they're always open to that as well at Grapple app on Twitter. We've had a lot of Voice of Wrestling listeners say, hey, this thing isn't quite working, or hey, this thing's a little weird, or hey, can you add this promotion or whatnot, and almost 100% of the time they get it solved, or they add that promotion, they do whatever. So they care what you guys think. You guys listening are important to Grapple. That's why they advertise on the show. So at Grapple app, make sure to download the app on Google Play and the Apple App Store, and also go to grappleapp.com as well, their new official website where you can go check that stuff out. But as we said, we're going to integrate some Grapple stuff in the show reviews as well. So all right, so where do you want to start, man? We got a lot. We got NWA, we got NXT, we got Royal Rumble. I'm open. The roulette wheel is spinning, Joe. Where do you want to start?
We should probably start with the Royal Rumble, right?
Yeah, let's do that. All right, so we'll start at the top here with the men's Royal Rumble, the main event here, which I thought was a really, really good Royal Rumble as well. Drew McIntyre winning, eliminating Roman Reigns to officially punch his ticket to WrestleMania Pirate Flag or whatever. I don't know. It's WrestleMania 36, but God only knows what pretzel they're going to twist themselves in and not use the number. We had WrestleMania New York. Do you remember WrestleMania New York last year, Joe? I do. I remember it. Just call it the number.
That wasn't the first one with the number, right? What was the when did they stop using the number?
I forget when they stopped. Yeah, I think WrestleMania Star, the Dallas WrestleMania, I feel like was the first one.
Maybe 30.
So WrestleMania 30, they did use the XXX. I know that for sure. So maybe either 31 or 32 is the first year.
32. Yeah. So it's been a few years now. Well, it's there clearly when you look at the biggest cultural event in the United States and the biggest sporting event in the world. When you look at, with the exception of the World Cup, I guess the Super Bowl, Rich. Clearly, their use of Roman numerals and/or numbers has hurt the Super Bowl's reach. So I guess WrestleMania is just following that lead,
right? I mean, because who can forget this Sunday's Super Bowl Miami Gardens? That's coming up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if the Super Bowl is still good using numbers, and I think Roman numerals are classy.
I love Roman numerals, man. That's how I learned. I learned Roman numerals via. I had like this old, God only knows when it was published, probably like 1995 or whatever. It was like this magazine all about old Super Bowls or whatever. So that's why like I have like a catalog knowledge of like the first 40 Super Bowls or whatever, the first 30 Super Bowls or whatever. Because like I would just pour through that. We talked about it a few weeks ago, where you get your one wrestling magazine maybe every month or so, and you just pour through every single page of that. That thing I had for years, and it's like I learned Roman numerals through that magazine. Like it's. I think I've probably lost them now because I haven't used them since. But yeah, like it's classy to me. It shows that you've been like. that to me, I would wear it as a badge of honor. Yeah, we've had 36 of these things. Look at all those fucking numbers. Like the Super Bowl is ridiculous now because you got to get to the L's. You got all this sort of shit. But I think that only adds prestige to it. Look at how many of these things we've had. Like, it's great. Or just use the numbers. If you want to say WrestleMania 36, there's been 36 of these. That sounds awesome to me. Like, I love that. I think I would use that all the time. But whatever.
That shows the success of the brand,
right?
That it's been able to survive for 36 years. 36. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good chunk of the roster. Like, what blew me away about the Royal Rumble is everyone who does all these wacky Rumble stats and everything was just the sheer amount of people in these Royal Rumbles who were born after the first Royal Rumble.
Yeah, that's got to be.
They were just born into a world where the Royal Rumble existed. And it's just one of those things that blows your mind. But it's the same with WrestleMania. I mean, 36. It's not super young anymore. It's like there's plenty of people that'll work that show. Well, maybe not plenty with their roster, but there's plenty of people who will work that show who were just born into a world, where WrestleMania, already existed, so which it kind of explains the mindset we always talk about where a lot of young wrestlers, it's like they're just, you see these specials on the network and, they're just, I can't believe them. They walk out into the empty building on Sunday morning and they're like, I can't believe I'm working at WrestleMania. This is fucking incredible. Whereas in the 80s, the mindset was this is the next stop on the tour and it's the biggest payday.
Right.
And they didn't give a fuck that it was WrestleMania or fucking, shitbag cock and balls mania. It didn't matter to them.
Right. Other than Liberace being there, it was pretty much just another show for them.
It was another show. It's just the next show on the tour and it just happens also to be an enormous payday. So, I might work slightly harder on this one. Although on some of those early manias,
I would really debate that.
They treated it like just another show too.
Yeah, WrestleMania 1 is the most house show. I mean, my God, the effort level.
Yeah, and that one you can kind of understand because it's WrestleMania 1.
They don't know what. Yeah.
That really was just the next show on
the one that always gets me is WrestleMania 3, where you see like Billy Jack Hayes go out there and just like, I'm like, dude, there's 90,000 people in this arena, 73,000 people or whatever. Like, let's go.
Let's get in trouble with that attendance, Rich.
Yeah.
Careful with the attendance, Craich. No, but seriously, you're right. WrestleMania 3 is the one where like nobody works hard, and you're like, this is, look at the size. Okay. Maybe WrestleMania means nothing to you, but look at the size of this house. You might want to put in a little more effort. But then again, these guys were working, some of them, probably worked fucking 25 straight nights before that show.
Right. Some may have worked the morning prior or something. Who the fuck knows?
Double shots on on Sundays, so, you kind of get it. But yeah, the younger wrestlers now, you forget that they're born into a world where this existed and it was already, when they became wrestling fans, fucking, if a wrestler, there's a 26-year-old wrestler, if Liv Morgan, she probably became a wrestling fan during the Cena era. Think about that.
Right.
And WrestleMania is already held in such great reverence to her. It's fucking ridiculous. It's incredible to be working at WrestleMania, Whereas when Hercules Hernandez was putting on the boots for WrestleMania 3, he was like, fuck, I just want to go home. I want to get this payday and I want to see my fucking kids. So it's just, it's been interesting to kind of see that sort of, and of course, Shawn Michaels and all those guys making sure turning WrestleMania into where you put in your best possible performance also helped transform WrestleMania into, okay, I have to, and then the company harping on WrestleMania moments is the other thing, and now everyone who's on the card, I got to have a moment. I got to make sure people, and then when everyone's having a moment, no one's having a moment is what happens. That's, it's like, it's that theory. And now it's just oversaturated. It's odd. We started this conversation talking about the Roman numerals of the Super Bowl, right? A hardcore football fan will tell you that the Super Bowl is their least favorite game of the year. It's kind of happened to WrestleMania too. It's not really a wrestling fans wrestling show anymore. It's about, with the exception of maybe the main events, everything else is just about how big and gaudy can we make this and how many moments can we cram into this 7 hours, and that's kind of what it's become. And it all starts at the Royal Rumble.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, put a pin in the Liv Morgan conversation because I have a fun little note about Liv Morgan I want to talk about during the Women's Rumble. But Drew McIntyre wins the Royal Rumble. Our dream of Brock Lesnar coming in first and eliminating everybody one by one. Joe, I told people before, they're like, what do you think's going to happen? And I had a bunch of people at my house watching or whatever. I'm like, I think Brock's going to just eliminate everybody and stay in the ring the whole time. Like, half joking or whatever. Joe, by number 12, when he tossed MVP out, I'm like, I don't know. Like, the time when I really believed that he tossed Keith Lee and Braun Strowman out, I think at the exact same time. And I was like, guys, this might happen. Like, I can't believe it. But this might happen. Obviously, it did not. Drew McIntyre eliminates Brock Lesnar after 26 minutes and 24 seconds. Brock has 13 eliminations in this Rumble. Obviously, the most of all time. But Drew McIntyre gets the win. And overall, I thought it was a really, really good Rumble. Because, I mean, I guess if you hate Brock Lesnar, you hated this. But we're on record. I fucking love Brock Lesnar. I'd be perfectly fine if he just eliminated all 28-9 guys and then just danced in the ring the whole time. It doesn't bother me whatsoever. But yeah, as long as if you don't care about the company, you don't care about booking, you don't care about anybody else on the roster, then yeah, you probably enjoyed this Rumble. If you do care about Cesaro and Big E and Kofi and Robert Roode and all these other guys, all these other fucking geeks, then maybe you care. But yeah, I thought this Rumble fucking rocked. I thought the beginning was great with Brock, and I thought the part after Drew eliminated him was a lot of fun as well, because it kind of left open of hey, who's going to win this thing? And yeah, I enjoyed it overall.
I thought both Rumbles were 2 acts. Right, and the first act of the men's Rumble was obviously the Brock stuff.
Yeah,
until he took the low blow from Ricochet, and then the what does Drew call his
Claymore kick? The Claymore kick. Yeah.
So Ricochet and Drew eliminate him, but that was the first act, and then the second act of the match began. And I love the Brock stuff. I mean, I thought it was tremendous. It was, that's something you'll remember forever. That's a Rumble moment you'll remember forever. Brock eliminating everybody one by one. And there's so many forgettable Rumbles, and you just reviewed half of them. It's like I just watched the 2003 Rumble, which was like star-studded.
Oh my God, yeah, that Rumble fucking rocked.
The work rate in that Rumble, the old school use of work rate, just how hard everybody was working. Like they'd get in the ring and they were just running through spots, and it was a very hard working Rumble. But the thing is, it didn't have a lot of moments that resonate. Before I clicked play, I didn't remember a thing about it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like this Rumble, you're always going to remember Brock just fucking flinging dudes out of the ring, and the cool little things like the Shelton Benjamin, and Brock with that shit-eating grin on his face, and Shelton thinks he's getting in there with his old fucking Minnesota Wrecking Crew 3 buddy, and they're just going to wreck shop on everyone, and then Brock just fucking turning on him and throwing him over the top rope. I mean, that shit, they even weaved a lot of story into it. So yeah, the first half of this Rumble fucking ruled. And even if you don't like Brock, you ended up getting a payoff too. It worked for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. And I saw a lot of complaints about, I can't believe he threw out Cesaro in 18 seconds and Morrison in 9 seconds. Well, the reason doing that makes the Drew elimination that much better, because if Brock is in there and there's 10 other dudes in the ring and he's trying to lift Cesaro in the corner for 5 minutes and then Drew McIntyre kicks him out or whatever, nobody gives a shit. It's just like, all right, Drew eliminated Brock. It needed that. You needed that. And I get the complaint. If Brock goes in there and tosses everybody out in 18 seconds and then wins the entire match, then yeah, you've pretty much said the rest of your roster is geeks. But the fact that and we say it all the time, I think people lose track of the fact that guys have to get pushed. Guys need to get pushed. And you can't push everybody because then you're pushing nobody. So what are your moments conversation that you were having? If everybody has moments, nobody has moments. If you wanted the idea of this Royal Rumble, the idea when this Rumble was over is that Drew McIntyre is a star. For him to do that, I'm sorry, Big E. I'm sorry, Cesaro. I'm sorry, Kofi and Ray and Rude and Eric Rowan or whatever. You guys gotta, the way to get that over, to get the elimination over, those guys need to get tossed out quickly. Those guys need to be treated like the geeks they are. And people have a tough time wrapping their head around that. But I'm all in favor of this. I'm all in favor of WWE pushing the top stars, pushing their people that they want you to think that are important. And then the rest of the guys, sorry, Cesaro, you don't mean that much. And
that's the thing. Cesaro and John Morrison and fucking Bobby Roode, those guys are non-entities anyway. Who cares? They're never getting behind those guys in a meaningful way. As we've seen with all three of them, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, the guys that slightly mattered. Your Kofi, he was in for 5 minutes. Rey Mysterio was in for 2. Keith Lee was in for 3 minutes. Ultimately, they got tossed out, but they weren't as much of the Rude, Morrison. Big E, I mean, I guess the Big E thing is, but that again, if you're 2020 and still saying, "Damn, they're not treating Big E right," I agree, but that's never going to happen. So you gotta move across that. Cesaro, if you're still in 2020, going, "Man, Cesaro's getting under pushed" or whatever. Like Nakamura, he was out of there in 20 seconds. Shelton Benjamin was out there in 37 seconds. MVP was obviously 24 seconds. Like those guys, they don't matter, and that's a great use of them is to have them. Their entire purpose in this Rumble was to make Brock look that much stronger, and then for Drew McIntyre to use all that momentum to get himself over. And that's I think they played it perfectly.
All that mattered with MVP was the surprise return. The Shelton thing had that little story behind it, and I thought that was a fun little segment. And Ray and Kofi had built-in stories with Brock, and they did better than those other guys.
They did.
That's the point you're making.
Mm-hmm.
They did better than those guys, but ultimately they succumbed to Brock, which is the guy that you're pushing. And then the guy that you're really pushing fucking eliminated him, And they gave Ricochet a little bit of a rub too, because Ricochet was the guy who kind of stopped the bleeding, because he didn't get eliminated right away. And then, Brock, clearly overpowered Ricochet, but Ricochet was crafty and he kicked him in the nuts. And then Drew finished him off. So, and those two guys obviously are being pushed to the level above 90% of those other 14 guys that we just named, with the exception of maybe Ray and maybe Kofi. And again, Ray and Kofi looked okay.
Yeah,
they weren't completely jobbed out the way that Rude was, and Nakamura, who's just a complete non-entity now, despite the fact that he won the thing 2 years ago. But he's a complete non-entity. When he came strutting down to that fucking violin, was there any doubt he was immediately getting thrown out?
No, not at all. Yeah,
that's who he is now. He is fucking Cesaro. He is Bobby Roode. He's a non-entity. So, I thought the first half of this match was fucking awesome. And I thought, the payoff of Drew knocking him out left open a lot of possibilities at the end of the match, because now you could just go all the way with Drew and have him win, which is what they did. Or you could have someone else win, but Drew is already a winner because he knocked Brock out.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that's where, when other guys that came out that I really thought had a chance of winning or whatever, obviously Edge, coming back, that was a huge story. We'll talk about that in a sec. But when Reigns came out, he was about the only other guy I thought. And the reason why I thought that is because I said, okay, well, you don't need Drew to win this anymore, because Drew, obviously on Raw, he's got a built-in story with Brock already. He's ready to go. Brock is going to probably want to face this guy no matter what at Mania. So there you go. So now you can have a SmackDown guy win this, and the SmackDown guy then challenges, for the title, and Drew still gets his title shot. So there was a perfect way to tell that story if you wanted to have it go to Roman Reigns. But I think having Drew win it is just that much more. It's a cherry on top. It's like, not only was he going to get his match anyway by eliminating the Brock, but now he won the whole damn thing. So I think this is done perfectly, because the Reigns thing, you could have done it, but it would have felt a little, a little weird, and obviously you would have had a weird reaction too if Reigns winning it. I mean, no matter what they've tried, he's still kind of that guy, and there's still those sort of reactions or whatever. So I think they did the best thing ever that they could have done with Drew. Is like, Drew is a fucking star. They made a star, and in one night, this guy's a made man, and you're ready to go with him. And yeah, we'll see what happens at Mania. We'll see what happens in the next few weeks. But I think him winning, the cool thing was that you opened up the possibility for other guys to win it. But I think ultimately the best decision was Drew winning. I'm
still not buying Drew McIntyre, but I don't blame them for trying, because it might work. Yeah.
No, I mean, they're trying with him. I mean, that's all you can ask for is here's a guy that's not a complete fucking stiff. He's not King Corbin, and you're trying with him. So let's see. The fans are reacting to him. The fans are into him, and you're pushing him at the same time that the fans are into him. It's like, this is something it's so foreign to this company recently to actually go in the direction that people want. And we'll see. Like in 2 months' time, he might be an absolute geek, and it's like, fuck it, who cares? But for right now, they're in lockstep with their fans, and that's been so rare over the last few years.
Yeah. And Keith Lee is the other one too. I know you mentioned him briefly, but I thought the Rumble was a net positive for him, because they let him go toe to toe with Brock a bit. And he probably went about 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, he was 3 minutes and 32 seconds, but that's pretty long for, the Brock segment, because every other one of those guys is 30
I don't think anybody went longer. Maybe Kofi.
Kofi went 5, yeah, but then Keith was the next highest.
Yeah. So, what about the little trick? Okay. So this is such a WWE thing, but they have Roman Reigns eliminate Edge, right? And then everybody boos. And then they have Drew immediately eliminate Roman. So it's almost like they're making sure that Drew gets cheered, because people are mad that Roman eliminated Edge. Do you buy into that, or do you think it was happenstance? Because I think they did do that shit on purpose.
I think it was on purpose, but I don't think that they thought that Drew winning one way or another was going to get... I don't think Drew winning would have gotten booed one way or another, if that's what you're asking.
I think it's one of the few times that their crowd manipulations work. In the micro moment that shit works. Because the crowd is just... They're hot about Edge being eliminated because they want Edge to win.
Yeah, right.
And you got to find a way to get rid of Edge to get Drew over, right? So... You have Roman throw Edge out, and you know that whoever throws out Edge is going to get booed, right? And then you have Drew eliminate that guy quickly, and that's just going to get a natural pop. And it's going to have Drew look like even that much bigger of a star because he's getting that big pop. But really, it's an artificial pop because they're really just popping because he threw out the guy who threw out Edge.
Yeah, see, I don't know if I 100% buy that. I think the crowd would have still reacted pretty well to Drew. What they did didn't hurt. I think that's obviously a way to tell a good story where, that all that heat that Reigns got from laying out Edge or taking Edge out, Drew then kind of takes that in reverse and turns it all to face heat by eliminating Roman. But I do think the crowd would have still reacted with Drew. I think Drew is over to this audience a lot. So I don't 100% buy your thing, but I think that, again, they gave themselves a little bit more of leeway, and that's a great idea too. I mean, like, again, I think this was a great Rumble when you talk about what did you try to accomplish. Like I always say, the key to a good Rumble is, enough stories going in, stars, and stories going out, and clear, not a 100% idea of who's going to win. And I think they had that. You had the Star and Brock in the first act, as you said. You had stars come out later in terms of like a guy like a Drew, who I think they're building up in that way. Edge, your Reigns, your Jordans, those sort of guys or whatever that are all, the stars of that second half or whatever. You have the stories going in, a little bit of the, stuff with Kofi and Ray or whatever, and obviously the Seth Rollins stable and all that sort of stuff. And then the stories going out, obviously Drew, beating Brock and retaining. And then also, like the idea of like, you don't know if Reigns or McIntyre or any of these other guys are going to win. Maybe Edge. Like there was, like you said, that buy-in that Edge was going to win. So I think the way that they booked it was perfect. But yeah, like ultimately, like 100%. I don't know. I agree 100% that Drew's pop was because he eliminated Reigns, but I think it absolutely helped it, if that makes sense.
What do you think of, and this guy is such a non-entity at this point that we didn't even mention him in the cavalcade of Brock geeks. Isn't it amazing that a guy that looks like Braun Strowman is just a complete non-entity in this company? Mm-hmm. It is incredible how they botched that guy up when there was clearly a point in time where they could have run with him.
Well, if you listen to the show and people listening, you can pat yourselves all on the back or whatever. We told you that the Braun Strowman push was a conduit to Roman Reigns. Like, build the monster up so Reigns can beat the monster.
Yep.
And we're done with that story. That story was a year ago or whatever.
And Braun, it's just incredible that a guy, I mean, he should be your next Brock. You should have built Braun up to the point where you don't need Brock and all the bullshit that he brings. His inflated salary, his schedule demands. You had the next one that you could have created one that would be more of a team player, right? And it's like he is a total non-entity. As I said months ago, Braun Strowman is now the Big Show, where you have this guy who, to this day, you should be able to count Big Show's pinfall losses on one hand. I firmly believe that. He should have been pushed like a modern Andre the Giant. He should have never lost other than when it absolutely meant something to push someone else. And he should have been treated like a special attraction because he was special. He was very athletic when he was younger. That's what Braun should have been in that ilk. This guy, you should know exactly how many times Braun Strowman has lost a match and who beat him and why and what it did for that person. And he's just a guy. He's a guy who comes in while he's Robert Roode, John Morrison, Eric Rowan, MVP. That's what he was, and that's what he is. And that's crazy to me. That's where we are now with Braun Strowman. But we saw that play out over the last 2 decades with the Big Show. So why should we be surprised? Right. Big Show, they got, and I'm not saying that Big Show wasn't a big star. Big Show is a wealthy man who was a big wrestling star at a good time in history to be a big wrestling star in the right company, okay? But he should have been an even bigger star. And he should have been treated even better in the booking. And he wasn't. Essentially, he was just a 7-foot guy on the roster. You never felt like someone in a match with the Big Show had no chance. And you should have felt like throughout his entire career, oh shit, they're doing whoever the fuck against Big Show, oh my God, whoever the fuck has no chance because Big Show doesn't lose. And then when whoever the fuck beats Big Show, it's a catapult. Holy shit. That's only the third time Big Show has ever lost. But, you have these unique, I hate to call it, freak show style attractions, which is what they are, when you have human beings that are bigger than 99.9% of the human beings who have ever lived. And you get the least out of the most. It's crazy how you get so little out of what you're handed when you're handed so much. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, and it's not like you even had to force feed Braun either, because there was a time, a year and a half ago, where it was working. Like the fans were into him, everybody was into him, and yeah, that's we saw it coming, and it's even harder than I thought it would be, to be honest.
He is gonna have Big Show's career arc. You come in, you think this guy's the next, and he's just gonna do comedy. He's gonna turn 1,000 times.
Yeah, I was gonna say, here's the best way to say, Joe, what is Braun Strowman? Is he a heel or a face?
I don't even know.
Answer right now. I don't know either.
Face? I think he's face right now.
Right, bingo. There you
it's
go.
like the fact that we don't know is even a bigger indictment. And it's like you don't even know what they're doing with him, but he's going to turn 1,000,000 times. He's going to have 1,000 tag team partners. He's going to do comedy, and then he'll get once every 2 years or once a year a 6-week push, and then he'll lose a title match or something, and then rinse repeat again. He's the Big Show. So anyway, Act 2 of the match is where Edge was the big surprise, and the Drew McIntyre stuff played out. What about Matt Riddle?
I was going to say, we got heat, Joe, heat.
Matt Riddle with the heat.
Corbin threw him out in 41 seconds. How about that heat?
Well, Matt Riddle with the backstage heat, reportedly, which is why Corbin threw him out. And the idea being Corbin would get more heat for throwing out the crowd favorite Matt Riddle.
You smarky assholes that like Matt Riddle.
Was he really a crowd favorite though? Did he get a
really? Not really.
He didn't really get a thunderous pop. I mean, they haven't really pushed Matt Riddle to the extent that they could on NXT to this point. If they had any guts whatsoever, they would have done this to Adam Cole. That would have gotten some heat. But they're not going to do that to Cole, obviously. But Cole, like if Vince McMahon is going to say, I'm going to take one of those NXT wrestlers and rub it in the faces of the smarks.
Why are you doing that? This thing is on Wednesdays on USA. Why would you do this?
Number one, why are you doing that?
Well, and here's a big, not to interrupt your point here, but the big picture, like, what are you doing? Why did none of the NXT guys were in this ring? There were two guys, Keith Lee and Matt Riddle. Keith Lee was, as you said, treated okay, but eliminated with Braun Strowman, and Matt Riddle was eliminated in 41 seconds. Go watch us every single Wednesday on USA.
Yeah.
Like, you got to have one NXT guy have a decent run, right?
Nah, you fire George Barrios.
Like, you got to have one NXT guy. Like, you have a Survivor Series that was built around the fact that NXT is on equal footing. Go watch, and the ratings reflected this, and we were saying, man, they figured it out. They finally got it. NXT just needs to be the third brand. They just need to treat it like it matters. And on this Rumble, you have two NXT guys in there, and they're in a combined 4 minutes.
Yeah.
They do nothing. They do nothing in the ring.
They proved that if you treat NXT important, it's reflected in business. They proved that. And then they immediately, totally, and completely got away from it. And then used Matt Riddle for some kind of dick-waving fucking contest against your own fans. Maybe he should fire himself. I don't know. So, and again, I don't even think Riddle was the best pick for that. But
no. Yeah, there's a lot of guys that should have. Yeah, like I would have liked Adam Cole to come in there and just, last 7 minutes or whatever. Toss Luke Gallows out, toss.
Well, I mean to get thrown out immediately by Corbin.
Oh, you're talking about the heat thing? Oh, well, I'm trying to actually, help their business.
Guys to get over.
Right. I'm sorry. That's not the point.
That's insane, yeah. Rich. I mean, that's crazy. Why would you put guys to get over?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I don't understand what you're doing. Like, that's not what we do here. Unless it's Brock, we don't book guys to get over. But I don't know. It's like, but the other thing is, there seems to be the idea that there's the other kind of heat with Riddle rubbing people the wrong way in the back. So maybe this was just straight up, okay, we want to punish Matt Riddle by booking him on the second biggest show of the year. I don't know how that works. And since we're going to punish Matt Riddle by embarrassing him in this match, who better than to have to throw him out than Corbin, because then that'll be more heat for Baron Corbin. Mm-hmm. And all of that's very stupid. I mean, do you anticipate Baron Corbin being a monster draw now? Because
absolutely. Well, now I'm going to buy a ticket to see King Corbin because,
Well, yeah, because he threw out Matt Riddle, who half of that crowd didn't give a shit about anyway.
Right.
So it's not like Matt Riddle came out to a thunderous ovation. And all you did was plant the seed that Matt Riddle doesn't mean anything, just like you did with Walter at Survivor Series, which is all counterintuitive to what you're trying to do. What are we doing here? Can we just talk about the rest of this stupid match? Because I like this match, and now I'm mad at the match.
Yeah, sorry. Move on.
So we had the Randy Orton Edge stuff, which played off the next night at Raw. Did you see the angle on Raw?
I did. Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, that's your WrestleMania match for sure. Those two guys, and that's all. I mean, it's a perfect match for Edge in his comeback because we don't know what he can do, and I'm sure he's still slightly limited. So Randy Orton's the perfect opponent because they can sit in a headlock for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Randy's not gonna say, all right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do boom, boom, boom. But Randy Orton's gonna say, let's keep it simple, baby. Like, let's look at each other, headlock, RKO, spear. We're done. Good.
Well, if he's back, he's back. You know, I mean, we talk about this with Shibata all the time, but if he's back, and I don't think there's any half measures. I don't think that means he wants to be falling off of ladders.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. But that angle, Royal Rumble and then the angle on Raw, which I watched right before we recorded, actually, that feels right now like the biggest, the hottest match at WrestleMania. It feels hotter than Drew versus Brock. It feels hotter. Well, actually, they haven't really announced anything. Well, I guess we know some of the matches, at least direction-wise. But, I mean, that feels like the hottest match because the angle was so good. And I see a lot of complaints about the angle. Oh, well, we all saw it coming. So, well, sometimes...
That's wrestling. That's fine. That's good.
Yeah, sometimes doing the chalk thing is the right thing. It's not always the right, but sometimes, like... the person you think is going to win the match should win the match,
right.
And because that's the story. And sometimes
I thought Hulk Hogan was going to be Iron Sheik. Like, that's fine. Like,
yeah, like that's the right, exactly. Like the right thing here was Randy Orton to turn on Edge. The question was, how will it be executed, and will it get over, and will it be well done? And I thought both guys nailed it. When Randy Orton's talking about, we were on the road together, and you got me out of trouble, and Edge is like legitimately crying and choked up. And whether that's because he's become a thespian in his time away and is just a phenomenal actor, or whether he was tapping into some real-life feelings that were legitimate because he knew it would help the angle work, it doesn't matter. The end result is that entire dynamic was fantastic. And then they didn't really milk the turn. Like the Moxley thing with Jericho a few weeks ago on Dynamite where he accepted – that went on forever before he finally turned on the Inner Circle and beat them all up. This was the timing on Randy Orton delivering that RKO to me was like perfect.
Yeah,
it wasn't a second too soon and it wasn't a second too late. They didn't do the thing where they're walking around the ring holding each other's arm up, and you didn't have time to sit there and say, when is the turn coming?
Yeah, let's get on with it. Go ahead. Come on. just fucking RKO and let's move on.
Like with Moxley, I'm like, fucking turn on them already.
Yeah.
I'm looking at my watch, like I don't even wear a watch, and I'm looking at my wrist, and I'm like, come on, the show ends in 45 seconds. Can we stop dancing to the music and pouring champagne on each other and just get on with this? The timing was just impeccable. I thought the angle was great. I thought the crowd reactions were great. I thought Randy Orton was great. I thought Edge was great. And I really do think it was a home run segment. And to me, this feels like the hottest match. A lot can change between now and the first week of April. Right now, this absolutely feels like the hottest match on the show. What else happened here? We had Seth Rollins come in with his goons.
Yeah, they kind of all brawled around the ring or whatnot. So that kind of that took out, obviously, Owens, Black, and Joe all got eliminated by some combination of Seth and Akam and Razor. So
presumably setting up a multi-man tag at WrestleMania of some sort, or at least something at the next pay-per-view, maybe.
Right. I'm thinking maybe a multi-man tag in the pay-per-view interim, and then a breakout of whoever versus Joe, who God only knows, we'll see after Raw because he got hurt. But yeah, maybe a breakout, maybe it's a multi-man, whatever you want to do with it. But yeah, that's obviously your direction again, and that's why I said this is a good Rumble. I mean, we have some clear directions going out of this of what's going to happen at Mania, and that's cool.
Yeah, really good Rumble. So that was the men's Rumble. And I guess let's do the ladies' Rumble, Rich.
Yeah, I will say real quickly, though, I always have trouble like star rating Rumbles. And kind of between on this one, but the folks at Grapple, 3.83, which, I went with 4 on it, so I kind of agree. I think it was a really good Rumble. So, yeah, I was cool with that.
I actually rated this Rumble. For the first time ever, I assigned a star rating to a Rumble match. I went 4.5 on this. I thought this was a great match.
Yeah, I can't hate you on that. That's yeah, I'm right with you.
Right below match of the year level, I think. This was the best Rumble in some time. I've enjoyed other Rumbles because they were train wrecks. Like, what was it, 2015 with Roman?
2015 was the, that's when everything went off the rail.
Oh,
2016 a little bit too, but 2015 was 2016 was off the rails from the beginning. 2015, like, built up to, like, a crescendo where then everybody was like, you know what? Fuck this.
Yeah. And then The Rock coming out and then booing him too.
Yeah, it's so great. That's the final episode of the Rumble Rewind on patreon.com/voiceswrestling is that 2015 Rumble. I cannot wait to go back and rewatch that one.
So I enjoyed those Rumbles for different reasons. Schadenfreude reasons, whatever you want to say. But this was a legitimately great match. And we should note, I don't think we noted, this Royal Rumble review is brought to you by our pals at Grapple as we move on to the Women's Royal Rumble. This was a 2-act Rumble too, I thought. I thought it was a clear first act before Charlotte entered, and then a clear second act after Charlotte entered. So, similar to when Drew entered, it kind of switched gears in the Men's Rumble. But the first act of this Rumble was the Bianca Belair show. And Rich, I have been not really on this show, but when I do I've done the TV reviews over the last couple of years, people who are subscribers, patreon.com/voiceswrestling, people know that I am an unabashed supporter of Bianca Belair. And from the moment I saw her in the Mae Young Classic, I thought she had future star written all over her. Obviously, the company agrees as she went just fucking crazy in the first half of this match, throwing people out left and right. Is that to you the defining memory of the first half of this Rumble, Bianca Belair's utter destruction of the rest of the roster?
Absolutely, yeah. 8 eliminations, which was tied for the most. We'll talk about who she tied with. 33 minutes longest of anybody in the ring there, and obviously the longest of the first half. Yeah, I think absolutely. I think Alexa Bliss was in there for 26 minutes, but I couldn't tell you anything about Alexa Bliss's run. But I can vividly remember all the Bianca Belair stuff. So yeah, I think she even got the ring cleared at one point. Anytime you do that, anytime that the ring gets cleared and one person's in the ring, like that's that act. You know what I mean? Like that has told you this person is the one that's the most important because they only do that for Ric Flair in '92 and Stone Cold Steve Austin. So like that is reserved for the best of the best. And she got in the ring on her own with nobody else in the ring there. So that's a huge moment for her. So no, I thought, yeah, absolutely the story of that first act. And I thought a tremendous story as well. Like, just like the Brock thing, I like dominant people. Yeah. I like dominance. Like, my wrestling is not 50-50. I have a hierarchy. I have people I want to push. I go into this match saying, hey, here's the 2 or 3 people we want to be the most important when this match is over. So let's work towards that. And if Lana has to get thrown out or, Candice LeRae has to get thrown out really quickly, then so be it. Whatever. It's all for, the person that we want to push the most, and that was Bianca Belair. So I thought that was definitely the highlight of the first act. And I think another highlight of the first act, and we'll get to that when we talk about the second act as well, is just the proliferation of NXT talent in this Rumble compared to the Men's Rumble we talked about. There was 2 guys, they were completely irrelevant. In this Rumble, you take the NXT talent out of this Rumble doesn't exist, man. I think there were more, let me do the numbers of the math here. I think there was more NXT roster members than Raw roster members in this one. I could be wrong, yeah.
It was 12 counting NXT UK.
Wow. And Raw had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And SmackDown had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So yeah. Jeez.
Raw had 8, I think. 6, 3, 4, 5. Raw had 8. Yeah, and SmackDown had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. That's
and most of those Raw talents. I mean, Lana, irrelevant. Liv Morgan, we'll talk about that in a sec here. She was in and out in 44 seconds. Kairi Sane 5 minutes. Naomi was in 22 minutes, but 15 of them were standing on an announce desk or whatever. Sarah Logan 28 seconds. Natalia 15 minutes, but pretty irrelevant. And Zelina Vega only 9 minutes. So yeah, even the Raw talent that was on there was completely irrelevant as well. So I don't know what that means. But
we probably shouldn't count Beth Phoenix as an NXT wrestler. So if you want to say it was 11 instead.
Oh, did they? Oh, they do have her counted. Yeah, Wikipedia has NXT, but yeah.
And then you had your surprises that filled out the rest. But yeah, well, look. I talk about it behind the paywall all the time. As much as I gush about Bianca Belair, the other thing that I hammer home is how NXT has the best women's roster, in America. I mean, it's better than the WWE main roster. It's better than AEW's women's roster. It's better than Ring of Honor's, obviously, women's roster. That's not even close. The NXT women's roster is loaded, and it's a good thing that they featured a lot of these people in this match, whether it was Mia Yim or Mercedes Martinez. I wasn't sure we were going to get those people in this match. Chelsea Green getting a new TV push, although she lost on TV anyway this week.
Say, I don't know. This seems like a bad push if she out in 12 seconds on the Rumble and then loses to was it Caden Carter or whatever on NXT? I don't know about push,
I think they're telling a story where Robert Stone is like a geek. I think eventually she's going to be like, what kind of fucking personal agent are you? I get thrown out of the Rumble immediately. I lose, so either he's going to turn on her, or she's going to turn on him. I think that's where it's going, but who knows? Who really cares? But yeah, Shayna Baszler and Bianca Belair were arguably the stars of the match.
Yeah.
Both NXT wrestlers. One was the star of the first half of the match. The other was the star of the second half of the match. Do you have a problem with Charlotte Flair eliminating both of those wrestlers? I saw some people annoyed that Charlotte was the one to eliminate Bianca Belair. She has to eliminate Shayna because she needs to win the match. Right. I haven't seen anyone have a problem with that. But the fact that she eliminated both, do you have a take on that or not?
Not really. I mean, she's going to win the whole thing. I mean, I really don't. I don't. I mean, because again, like I say, you go into a Rumble, the way I would book it, and the way that clearly they booked it, is I go into Rumble saying, okay, who are the handful of people that we're going to really push here? I don't want Natalya to eliminate Bianca Belair. Like, she's got to get eliminated by somebody, who eliminates her then, in that sense. Like, I don't want any, I want, like, Charlotte's going to win. We want to push her. Shayna's going to eliminate a bunch of people. Bianca's going to eliminate a bunch of people. If that's going to be the case, then I want those three to be the focused people, and I want them all to be related in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with Charlotte tossing Bianca out there.
Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross, Fire and Desire, Dana Brooke, Tamina, and Carmella. Those were your SmackDown representatives.
God. How can they do that?
I mean,
how do you
not
have such a bad roster.
Listen, not everyone in that list stinks, but most of the people in that list stink. It's bad. It's bad stuff. What else to talk about here? So the surprises, Mighty Molly. She had a nice little run. I think she got her bell rung. Kelly again. And
I love how every single year they act like Kelly is like, oh my God, it's Kelly. She's been in every single surprise Rumble. She's always a surprise. And they're always like, oh my God, it's Kelly. It's like, all right. It started like 8 months ago. Like, who cares?
Bring back Mike Knox and we can talk.
Right.
Santina, and then Santina Marella, which I think that shit, they're does anyone remember the Santina Marella Beth Phoenix shit that they were trying to
No, I mean, dude, that was like 2008 that shit happened, and they were just like, that these guys have a history together. And I'm like, man, for a company that explains everything ad nauseum, they just assume that you remember an angle from 14 years, like 11 years ago with Santina, and yeah, it was that was a weird thing.
Not a super memorable angle either.
No.
It's not like this was fucking, I remember Santina, of course, but I really had to rack my brain to remember the particulars of Santina Marella. But stupid. Could have used that spot for someone else, but I get what they were thinking with the Beth Phoenix stuff. And, Beth got busted open.
Oh, my God. How was that? I don't know. Were you watching just by yourself, or was TLB in the room for this as well?
I was alone for this. Sad, lonely, and alone.
That's fine. That every time they cut to her, the women watching were not happy about Beth Phoenix's, and everyone's just like, my God, why is she still in the match? And why is she still in the ring? And we're like, we were like, well, she's either winning or they're gonna do something with her, like, because they would just eliminate her otherwise. And man, every single time, like, a girl would go up and then her arm would be filled with blood, and like, man, like, people were like, this is brutal. What's going on here? We're like, okay, I don't know, it's not supposed to happen or whatever, but man, like, she was just gushing blood from the back of her head, man. I don't know what happened, but it was gross. Like, Toni Storm would grab her, and Toni Storm was all covered in blood, and then, Charlotte Flair grabs her, and then Charlotte's all covered in blood. It was just like, God damn, like, this is pretty. But then when the Santina came out, I was like, all right, well, that's why. And the women in attendance were like, well, they kept her in so this, like, guy dressed as a woman could fuck around with her, and I went, yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's sort of what happened.
Plus, Beth is highly respected, so she always gets
right. I said they didn't want to toss her out. Like, they didn't want, they wanted her to last until the, pretty much the final part. So,
hey, look, AJ Styles got hurt and made the call to eliminate himself.
Right.
And I'm sure Beth Phoenix could have done that, but it's a little cut on her head.
No, I didn't care. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was great that, like, everybody touched her and then they were covered in blood. Like, I watch wrestling, man. I'm cool with the blood. It's all good.
Accidental blood rules, and it probably wasn't as bad as how blood. Listen, when guys,
if she didn't have blonde, long hair and sweat or whatever, it wouldn't be anything. But yeah,
the theory. You bleed and the sweat makes it look worse than it is. You wear a white shirt, you wear white trunks, you have blonde hair. Cody dyed his hair before the Dustin match because he knew he was going to fucking play. So it's like, come on. But yeah, that's the deal with Beth Phoenix. Xia Li looked a lot better this year than she looked last year. I don't know how you.
It wasn't hard. It's not too hard.
So good for Xia Li. I figured I'd at least give her some credit there. And Charlotte wins. I mean, I'm not surprised. I know you're not surprised.
Yeah, whatever.
I know people are annoyed because but look, as long as Charlotte exists and she's going to get mega pushed, you just have to live with it. You don't have to like it, but you got to live with it. And it just felt like, look, they shoehorned her into Becky's match last year. I don't care who argues with me. They shoehorned her into Becky's match last year and they shouldn't have. And I know that there's still people who argue with me, and it's a fair debate, but I am firmly on the side that should have been Becky and Ronda. And she's going to win matches like this, especially now where it was, she was ripe to be put into a WrestleMania program against one of these champions.
Yeah. So, well, look at this main roster that we're talking about. Who else who are you really pushing out of this?
Yeah, we talked about last week. Who's winning this match?
Right.
Everyone else either is already belted up, or in the case of Sasha, was injured and couldn't work the match. And it's, so you can't even really, who else are you going to make a case for? So you want Tamina to win this thing? You a big Sarah Logan fan? I mean, this was not a strong Rumble from, a star perspective or a name value or NXT really saved it, like you said. And I thought this was way better than last year's Women's Rumble.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
But it wasn't as good as the one from 2 years ago. I didn't think that. But
no. I do have one beef I have is the Dakota Kai Tegan Nox. No interaction between those two, despite the fact that they're both going to be in this match.
Yeah, pretty stupid.
Which again, like you're building to a big match on Wednesday between these two. They're going to fight at Worlds Collide. They're ripping at one another. Dakota Kai comes out. She's out. And then I was like, well, all right, I guess Tegan Nox. Because I thought when I saw Dakota Kai, I was like, oh, here we go. It's cool. Because I'm into I like that feud. I like that feud a lot. Tegan Nox, Dakota Kai. It's a cool feud. So I was like, oh, that's cool. We're going to have, some interaction between them. I'm thinking we're getting Tito Santana, classic, that sort of stuff. And then like Dakota Kai gets tossed out. And then 8 minutes later, Tegan Nox comes out. And I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, come on. That's Rumble booking 101, man. I mean,
you could argue, all right, well, if they're saving the match for a takeover or something, but you're doing it Wednesday. Like they're wrestling on Wednesday.
Right. The best story in the world is, Dakota Kai tosses out Tegan Nox and they go, and she laughs at her and, oh my God, well, or screws her over, does something or whatever. Well, Tegan's going to get her hands on her Wednesday on NXT or whatever. But, again, I'm trying to get people to watch their TV show, so I'm sorry for doing that. So.
Yeah, they're not interested in getting people to watch their TV show. So you're approaching it all the wrong way.
I thought Shayna looked great. I'm all on board with the Shayna push. I think she's awesome. So hopefully they do that. And then I want to talk about Liv Morgan. That's the one I wanted to talk about. So I don't know if you saw my tweets, but I'm obviously watching in a room full of people or whatever. And the nurse is next to me. Liv Morgan comes out, and I have never seen the nurse more horny for another woman in my life.
Yeah.
She went, whoa, who is that? And I'm like, what? Because Liv Morgan, she's a fine looking woman, whatever. But she was sweating and red, and I was like, oh, what the hell? She's like, my God, look at her. She's hot. And I'm like, all right, cool. And she couldn't talk. I was so glad that Liv Morgan got out of there in 44 seconds because the nurse couldn't stop talking about Liv Morgan.
Rich, you need to immediately take her to a bar and find a 5'2" blonde.
I know. I was like, all right. I made the notes, yeah.
And you're on your way to a menage a trois.
I know. I need to find another Gianna Dedio or whatever. So.
Yeah, yes, you do, sir.
That won't be too hard to find. I feel like I could find a Liv Morgan-esque woman somewhere.
Yeah.
Can't be too hard, but
in her previous incarnation where she was, I don't know what she was. She had a green tongue and she dressed like a 16-year-old. I don't know what that gimmick was, but she was basically every girl in every mall in New Jersey, which is where she's from. So it makes sense. But now the pleather, there's just something about it, Rich. The nurse is onto something. There was nothing wrong with that Liv Morgan look.
No, man. I've never heard that.
She went from girl to woman in one fell swoop, let me tell you. Okay? It is a drastic improvement. It's not like she was a dog before, but I mean, this is just an incredible transformation, which stopped Twitter in its tracks, by the way. The nurse is not alone. So everybody enjoyed. This is the perfect example of an upgrade. I mean, this is just tremendous with Save Me here, because I'm going to say something that's going to get
fine.
us.
No, I'm saying, like, usually we're not the horny show, but I just had to point out that the nurse was like, man, she was fucking ready to go that night. Like, I've never heard. She's never done, like, because she'll, like, if she sees like a woman, she's like, oh, she's cute, or oh, she's really attractive, or she's, you know. This was like visceral. I was like, okay, all right, like,
yeah,
a little bit. And I kept trying. I was like, hey, what do you think of Mandy Rose? She's like, oh, she's all right. You know, like the rest of the time, she was like, oh, these other girls are, no, she's fine.
Rich, you got to get the.
Don't worry. I put a pin in that one. Don't worry. That's got a pin in it because
know her type now, so you got a zero.
Yeah, I never, because she never had a type, but now I know there is a type.
Now you know the type. Listen, this is what they call on the street a glow up.
God,
that's right. On the streets, they call it that.
They do. That's what they're calling it. On TikTok.
Anything else on the Women's Rumble? Or do you want
nothing else? No, I'm ready to move on with the Women's Rumble. That was Grapple users 3.19, which I think is way too low for this match. I think it was a little bit better than that, but
yeah, I don't know. 3.25 is where I'd go, something like that. So I'm not disagreeing with the Grapple users. Rich thinks it's a little better.
Yeah, I went 3.5, but yeah, not too drastic.
Oh, jeez, same goddamn thing.
Split hairs, though. All right, let's go to the top of the show, work our way up there. Thank God, Sheamus Shorty G was a pre-show match. Nobody was at my house. I didn't have to explain Shorty G to anybody. Thank God.
Good for you. Good for you.
Thank God. Andrade and his. By
the way, Rich.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
By the way, you'll never guess how the Sheamus Shorty G match was structured.
Well, I'm going to guess that Sheamus was tall and Shorty G is short, so they did a bunch of big man moves against the short guy. And he said, "Come here, fella." Little guy, and then he kicked him, and then he pinned him, and then he won.
He dominated the match, Rich, with Shorty G getting some hope spots. But ultimately, Sheamus was just too large for Shorty G.
Unbelievable.
And he put him away. And you'll also be shocked to know that Shorty G was the least over person on this entire show, including, like, Rumble entrance. Which, I mean, when you push someone, quote unquote push someone, as admitting that they're too small and not good enough, and then they, in fact, ever aren't good enough and always lose all of their matches, those people tend not to get over. So,
unbelievable.
To the surprise of no one. I know that, it's crazy because there are people who thought this would work.
They're idiots.
And get the guy over. And it's like, why would
the Cedric Alexander morons? I wish we had a list of every single one of them so we could just, every week, just go, are you really? How dumb are you? Cedric Alexander. The asshole lost on main event this week. Like, come on. What are you doing?
Yeah. It's Shorty G, it's like, oh, well, he has a character now. Yeah, but if it's bad.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if it's bad and the essence of the character is,
I'm inadequate, then...
You're inadequate and you lose.
But he's losing to stars, Joe.
Right? And, like, you tell us that you're inadequate and you always lose.
And you're proud of being inadequate.
Like, there's a way to always lose and get over.
Right.
Tomoaki Honma.
Yeah, thinking you're going to win every single time. Tomoaki Honma got in that ring every single night and said, I'm going to hit this fucking Kokeshi and I'm going to pin this asshole and I'm going to win.
Or Darby Allin or something, but this is a different kind of thing. This is, I dress like a small child. I don't. Let's just move. We can't. We could do this every week if we wanted to.
Yeah, we really shouldn't. So Andrade defeated Humberto Carrillo. We had for the U.S. title. We also had the fake Andrade hog thing that happened this weekend as well, where everybody thought that Charlotte. You should probably explain this because you probably have a better job than me. So
someone went through the effort of faking Charlotte accidentally posting a picture on a social media site with her camera roll visible. You know, the gimmick with the camera roll on the iPhone on the bottom. And one of the pictures on the camera roll being Andrade's hog. Someone went through the effort to fake that. Of a dick in a guy's hand over a bed. Because I saw the hog. It wasn't a bad hog. It was a nice girthy.
It wasn't bad, yeah. I was like, oh, all right, well, hey, good to you, Andrade. Yeah, that's...
Yeah, especially for a half chub. It really wasn't that, it was girthy. It looked like it had some weight to it in the hand.
It did look very heavy. Yeah, that felt like
it looked like a girthy, heavy hog.
Yeah, I feel like you'd have some hip problems with that one.
It's a heavy hog, yeah. It looked like it had some weight to it, and it looked like a decent hog. It looked like, with full power, with a Rhino XL working with it, it could have been a very impressive
a kangaroo in there.
big kangaroo in the mix, But it turns out that this was all a hoax. Why would you – the effort required to fake something like that and put it in a camera roll. Now, the camera roll hoax is a good move because it's like that's more believable than just faking a picture or something, because it's like you could see someone making that mistake with their camera roll very easily, But it came out that it was a hoax. So, Rich, we're just talking about some random guy's dick.
Right. All of us just went and researched some random guy's dick. And
so whoever's cock that was, you've got a nice, weighty-looking, girthy hog.
Yeah, so that guy should come forward because, I think there's a lot of wrestling fans that are very appreciative of his hog. So.
Yeah, very definitely not a hog that you shouldn't be ashamed of, for sure. The Carrillo match, though, man, did they slow this down. I know you didn't watch because it's the pre-show. But Andrade got popped for a wellness violation anyway. They did an injury angle the next day on Raw with the DDT on the concrete, which I thought was a good angle. It gave Carrillo an edge for once. The guy has never had an edge. He's too busy smiling and fucking with his dumb dimples. Give the guy an edge, and they did with that DDT. As Zelina Vega's begging him not to DDT Andrade, she did a great job in the angle too, putting it over as something dangerous. And it felt different when he delivered it. So Andrade gone for 30 days. They didn't take the title off him, and presumably he'll continue his feud there. But let's talk about the Rumble matches, Rich. Walk us through them.
All right. So we had the opener, which I believe is still going on. Roman Reigns defeating King Corbin in a Falls Count Anywhere match.
Oh, my God.
Somehow it only went 21 minutes. I really doubt that only went 21 minutes. That felt excruciatingly long live.
And then a second match broke out within the match, like with Dolph Ziggler and the Usos. And what the fuck was this? They're just walking around the building. It was a Jeff Jarrett special. The thing with the porta potty, and then they don't even get any shit involved. Why do you do a porta potty spot?
Oh my God. Yeah, the whole room. We were like, I was like, oh man, King Corbin's going to come out and he's going to be filled with fake shit and Vince is just going to be chuckling in his ass. Then King Corbin just walks out and he's perfectly fine. Like, you've never heard so much disappointment in a room because we were all like, well, at least he's going to be covered in fake shit, so that'll be fun. He just rolls out and he's fine.
He wasn't even wet.
No, like, what are we doing?
So not like I care about the porta potty spot.
No, but if you're going to do the goddamn porta potty, do the fucking porta potty spot.
Yeah, I don't know. So then he takes a spear on the Houston Astros first baseline dugout. And that is the Astros dugout, by the way. I'm shocked on this show they didn't do anything with like a garbage can or somebody cheating. Like, how can you not do that?
They might just probably don't know. Most of these people are insulated weirdos. They don't know anything about it.
That's a good point.
Sports, so that's unlikely that
you got to go into the dugout and rip a TV monitor off the wall.
I know. That's what I would have done.
Right?
Yeah.
And then Roman attacks him with the TV monitor, and you have like someone banging on a fucking I don't know. Anyway, could just be us.
Yeah, well, this match fucking stunk. Anyway, like how many? Like we talk about it, with the match, the Joe Coffey Walter match, which had like 5 different acts or whatever. This match, like. Roman Reigns is going through 15 tables and that's like 10 minutes into the match. There's 10 minutes more left to go. It's like there was the porta potty spot. There was the match inside the match. There was the table spots. There was the fighting on top of the dugout. Then finally, mercifully, it's fucking over. And it's just like, God, what'd you get out of this? Like, what are we doing? Why is it so long?
I agree.
So I went 1 3/4 with this thing. I thought it fucking stunk. So
I don't even know. I think I gave it 2 stars or something.
That's fair. Yeah, Grapple used just 2.17 for Roman Reigns and King Corbin. So we talked about the Women's Rumble. Bayley versus Lacey Evans. Joe, I'm not gonna lie. We got a pizza delivered at this exact time, and I ate the pizza instead of watching this match. So
I don't remember much about this match. I got to be honest. I don't know.
Yeah, I did have to explain to a room full of people that the woman who supports the troops and cooks dinners and all that sort of stuff is presented as the good person in 2020, and the women in the room were very confused by that as well. So it's not just us.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to get political.
Exactly. No, I know. But they were all kind of like, oh, that's kind of a weird one to push, because they're like, is that really what people want? I'm like, I don't know, man. But yeah, it is what it is. So I didn't watch the match, so I don't know anything about this match. So I heard it wasn't any good though. So.
I don't remember much about it. It appears as though, I'm on. I remember now. I didn't watch this match either. I was cooking during this match, and I didn't even rate it on Grapple.
There you go. Yeah, I have no rating either. 1.75.
We didn't miss much, apparently. But that's why I couldn't remember anything about it. I'm looking at Grapple now because I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't watch either. That's why you listen to this podcast, listen to us review matches that we didn't even watch. So what's next?
Next is The Fiend defeating Daniel Bryan in a strap match, 17 minutes, 35 seconds. The Fiend retains his Universal Championship.
I didn't think this was that bad. There's a lot. See, you hated it, so this is good. There's a lot of people like you who hated it. There's a lot of people who fucking loved it. I'm not with them, but I'm closer to those people because I thought Daniel Bryan was excellent in the match. I thought, them whipping each other with the strap looked nasty. I thought that the spot where Daniel Bryan reversed into the whatever he calls the fucking crossface. What is he? The yes lock?
Yeah, the yes lock or the cattle mutilation or whatever. Yeah. Or no, the yes lock. The yes lock. The yes lock is the one.
Definitely not the cattle mutilation.
No, you were talking about the yes lock. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the yes lock. Yeah, he called it something else too in the past. Whatever. Everybody knows what we're talking about. Was a great spot. But then I thought I was ready to praise the match, but then the finish was stupid. I mean, Bray the Fiend just turns into a monster again and just randomly decides to no-sell everything and just stand up. And they tried to get that clever camera shot of it, and it was all just so goofy. And then he just put Daniel Bryan away with like relative ease, and that kind of took the wind out of my sails. But on the whole, I thought it was a pretty good match and easily the best thing that the Fiend has ever done since the character change. But the floor is yours to bury it, sir.
Yeah, okay, so I agree that Daniel Bryan was awesome in this match, but I thought the Fiend was fucking terrible, as usual. The worst part about him is I know in his heart of hearts he thinks he's doing like great shit. That he's out there just working this crowd and oh my god, they're in the palm of his hand and nobody gives a shit. After the 20th time he slaps the guy with the strap, nobody gives a fuck anymore. Daniel Bryan's sitting there writhing in pain, his back's all fucking red and stuff, and the Fiend's just sitting there laughing, and yeah, it's just way too long. Like I think this could have been 10 minutes and achieved the same thing. Pushing up against 20 minutes was way too long for this thing. It was boring as hell. The crowd really didn't give a shit. And like you said, the ending started getting pretty hot and people were kind of into it when Bryan started firing up or whatever. And the Fiend just puts him in a mandible claw chokeslam and pins him. And it's like over. And then the worse yet, they do like the, Daniel Bryan getting carted, basically wheeled out of the ring or whatever. And like they assume that the crowd's going to get on their feet and go, yeah, nice effort. But like 10 people in this fucking giant baseball stadium clap for him. And it was just like so pathetic. It's just, yeah, I thought Bryan was good because he worked his ass off in this match, but I still thought it was boring as hell, and I still think the Fiend absolutely fucking stinks. So was this the best thing the Fiend's done? Probably, but I still think it was terrible. So it was just boring. I just bored out of my mind as it was going on.
And then we had Becky Lynch and Asuka with Kairi Sane in Asuka's corner, and Becky overcomes the Kabuki Warriors and their dastardly attempts to mist her in the face and retains the title. It's fine. I think I went like 3 1/4. Oh, what did Grapple go on the feed?
So Grapple went 3.09 for this one.
Okay. How about Becky Lynch and Asuka? I think I'd go like 3 1/4 on that one.
That's exactly where I'm at. I thought it was really good, but I didn't think it was like I couldn't go more than 4 stars on it. Like I thought it was really good back and forth, and it told a very good story as well. It's like one of these matches that we always talk about where it's like hard to star rate. Like I think I was perfectly fine with all the work that was done in it, and I'm perfectly fine with the ending, and I'm perfectly fine with how they did all of it. It just ultimately wasn't a match that I was like super into or super interested in. It was just kind of at this point I was like, all right, let's see this next Rumble match or whatever, and it felt like it was just kind of the last step to get to the men's Rumble or whatever. I think good work by them, and I think it was a good story to have Becky, defeat the Kabuki Warriors and avenge the mistings and prove to herself that she can actually do it or whatever. But ultimately, it wasn't like super super exciting. So yeah, I'm right about 3 1/4 with you. So
all right, so that's Royal Rumble, which I think on the strength of the 2 Rumble matches, I would say was a good show.
Yeah, given their track record of pay-per-views this year, no, this is a good show for sure.
Yeah, so the day before was Worlds Collide. Did we ever get an attendance on Worlds Collide?
I didn't see one. I'll try to see if I dig in a little bit, but I have not seen anything public, so maybe we might have to wait for the Observer this week too.
I think the Observer's out. Maybe let me take a look here. Worlds Collide. But this review as well will be brought to you by our friends at Grapple as we go through the Worlds Collide, which I think, as we said, would be a show that ultimately would end up being pretty damn good. And I thought it was pretty damn good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, no, I thought it was really good. Like, was there anything like I don't think anything blew me away. I don't think anything was like, oh my god, you have to go out of your way to watch this. But as far as like a show just to kind of put on and watch for 2 hours or so, I thought it was really really good. Like every match delivered to some level, and I don't think anything was really bad. I mean, I'll talk about my least favorite match the entire night, and you might agree as well. But I thought, yeah, everything from beginning to end was solid enough. I mean, it started with Finn Balor and Dragunov, and I thought that was really good. I went 3.5 with that match. Really good back and forth between the two guys, and Finn seems pretty comfortable in NXT these days, and it's nice to see him kind of feeling himself a little bit again. And we know that deep down there is something good there in Finn Balor, and we're starting to see it a little bit more in NXT. And I thought Dragunov was good in this match too, and it didn't overstay its welcome. 14 minutes, they got in and out. Finn Balor got the one, and yeah, I liked it.
3,500 in the Toyota Center. That's abysmal. That's abysmal.
That's not good.
And I don't know how many paid, because it's a nice round number, Rich.
We knew it though. I mean, like, why would you buy a ticket to go see this match, this show? Like,
if I lived across the street, I would have went to this show because I knew it would be a good show.
But we're us. Like, how would Joe Q Joe Q public? Yeah, like he's not.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. Yeah, there's just but I thought it was I had 4 out of 5 notebook matches on this show. So I really liked this show. I went 4 stars on Finn Balor, Ilya Dragunov. And I think the one thing holding it back, because I thought the work was excellent from both guys, and I think you noted something that I'm going to back up. Finn Balor, I am really enjoying his work since he moved down to NXT. There's just a different kind of viciousness to it, maybe is the word, or intensity. There's like a slow, quiet intensity to his work in all the right ways. And I think he's really, he seems motivated. And I really like what he's doing, much more than when, the end of his run on the main roster, where he was just, sort of this baby face, this with the ridiculous nickname, the phenomenal man who does extraordinary, whatever the fuck, and with his stupid leather jacket and fucking, he just seems, I'm enjoying him much more now than I was post shoulder injury on the main roster. And the thing that held us back was no one fucking knew who Ilya Dragunov was, which speaks to our previous point. Why would you? Okay? Why would anyone in that building know him or give a crap who? And we talked last week. There was no real build to this other than these two guys are going to wrestle, one of which you've never heard of. So, I thought that held it back. But I thought the work was really strong. And I went 4 stars flat on this. Grapple, more along the lines of a Craich. They went 3.25 as we record this. So moving on, we had DIY versus Mustache Mountain. I will go first on this one. The first half of this match to me was disappointing because they were too busy whooping it up and doing shtick. And I really thought that these two teams were just going to go in there and kill it. And then the second half of the match, they went out there and they killed it. But the first half of the match dragged it down for me. By all rights, if this had a strong first half, which set up the second half, we'd be talking about, one of the better tag team matches that I've seen in some time. Yeah. But I had the docket for the first half of the match. I went 4 flat on this, which for considering who was involved is a slight disappointment. But the second half of the match was too good for me to deny. What did you think of this?
I was exactly the same as you, 4 stars flat. And the big reason why is exactly like you said. And it just didn't feel, the first half of the match just didn't, I just wasn't feeling it. There was just too much, goofiness, like you said. And ultimately, like, the other problem I had with this entire match is I think that these guys realize, and it's exactly how it was, there wasn't a story. Like, there was nothing to buy into. There was nothing to really sink your teeth into. It's just like, all right, here's 2 good teams. They're going to have a good wrestling match. And then when the first half is not that, when the first half is them kind of, as you said, being a little goofy and doing this sort of stuff, it was like, all right, look, there's no big story hook into this match. There's no real reason these teams are fighting each other. So let's at least like get that. And we got that for the last half of the match, but it's hard to say that when, 10 minutes of this 20-minute match or whatever was just kind of mundane, or they're just kind of going through the motions, not doing anything, which sucks because the last 10 were awesome. Like, once they got going and basically said, all right, let's go to just have a good match. Like, let's just fucking go out there and throw bombs at one another. It was great. It was fantastic the last, half of the match. But yeah, the first half was just too dull and too kind of just hanging around there, which sucks because I had this pegged as like surefire match of the weekend, a match that would really stand out, match of the year contender type stuff, and it didn't reach those levels whatsoever. But still a very, very good match. It's a very entertaining match. But yeah, nothing to like that level where you're going to think about it at the end of the year or anything. So
the action was way too good to deny.
Right.
So Grapple went 4.05, so right in line with us as we had the 4-way for the Cruiserweight title. Why did we never consider that Devlin could win this? I mean, I feel stupid in hindsight.
I guess I don't. I peg him as being bigger than this title, but I guess he's not. And that's probably me. That's probably me me knowing what he's capable of and me knowing what he's done in other companies. To me was like, oh, he can't win this match. He's bigger than that title, but they don't think of him as that way. So
no, but this is a positive step for him because it'll get him on NXT proper.
Right. I guess. Yeah.
So I think it's good career progression, honestly. In fact, I think this is a bigger deal than winning the NXT UK title because, yeah, that might get you on a takeover, but this gets you on TV. It could get you on TV every week. Because he's the Cruiserweight champion.
Right, yeah.
You know, so I don't know. I feel dumb for not considering that he could have won, but it seemed like Garza was in for a bigger push, but maybe that's why we weren't thinking about it. And plus, we were just confused by all of a sudden it was a four-way. But, man, did I love this. I mean, the action here was so great. And I thought Isaiah Scott was great in this match. And Garza has so much charisma, and I was happy to see Devlin win, and I was surprised that Devlin won. And, you know, for a go, four-way, cruiserweight style of match, this was I sat here on my couch, and I fucking loved it. I went 4 1/4 on this. I mean, I finished watching this, and I was like, you give me a match like that on every major show, and I'm a happy man. You know, so, I love the hell out of it. I think I might be the high man. What'd you think of this match?
I was 4 flat on this. I didn't like it as much as you did, but I still thought it was pretty awesome. And yeah, like, I'm totally cool with this Cruiserweight Championship being this, like, every single, month or whatever. If they're never going to really give it, like, enough care and enough time, and maybe they will with Devlin, but, what we think of Devlin is a little bit different than what they think of Devlin or what he's capable of. But regardless, like, yeah, if it's just every single month there's 4 guys that just go out there and bust their ass for 10 minutes or whatever, I'm fine with that. So, yeah, like, again, a match that doesn't overstay its welcome, in and out in 12 minutes with a ton of action. Everybody got their big spot. Everybody got their felt like they were important to the match. I mean, even Travis Banks, who felt like really the fourth guy in this match, he got his shine a little bit as well. Swerve obviously got his stuff. Garza is super over, and yeah, Devlin winning was really cool. So yeah, I love this, and it was cool to see the crowd really invested in this match as well, a lot of ways too. Because yeah, it's like they just wanted to see guys do cool shit, and that's what they did for 10 minutes. So
Grapple 3.77. Rhea Ripley successfully defends the NXT women. Well, I'm sorry, NXT Championship. No more women's in there. That's not confusing at all. Rhea Ripley defeats Toni Storm in what I thought was the least interesting match these two have ever had.
Yeah.
I didn't care for this at all. I thought it was boring. It had no juice, and it was just a match. I can't say it was bad, but it was pretty much an average bout. I think I went 2.5. What'd you think of Rhea Ripley defeating Toni Storm?
Yeah, I went too flat. I thought it was no good. I just thought really boring. 10 minutes of like the whole 10 minutes is waiting like for WWE style match here, where you're like, all right, well, Tony's gonna start firing up here a little bit, have 5 minutes of hope, and then Rhea Ripley's gonna dash her hopes with a big finisher. And it was like 10 minutes of Rhea working on Tony doing a move, and then Rhea just putting the riptide down or hitting the riptide, and then it's over. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like that's it. And then Toni Storm misses the frog splash, and you're thinking that's just a transition, and then Ripley's just like, no, that's it. I'm just gonna fucking beat you now. And I was like, oh, all right. It was just like it never got going. It never kicked into that next gear, and you kept waiting, and then it was just over. And it just had no interest, and the fans didn't give a shit. I didn't really give a shit, and that sucks because these are two super talented women. Like they're really talented. Like I love Rhea Ripley. I think she's awesome. I think Tony's really great as well. But I don't know what happened on this night. But this was not their best effort, not anyone's best effort. I hated this match,
and it had a good build.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was my most anticipated match of this entire show because I was like, I'm into this build. I like this build, and it was just nothing.
Grapple 2.55. As we move on to the main event, Imperium taking on Undisputed Era. Alexander Wolf gets his fucking bell rung. He got knocked out, taking a kick to the dome from Bobby Fish. Wolf tweeted later that night, let everybody know he was okay, and he even took blame. He said he shouldn't have had his head down. I guess that kick was designed to hit the upper chest. Ended up catching him in the, kind of like an MMA knockout. I think it caught him on the jaw. You got hit. If you get hit in that point in the jaw, that's a well known in fighting. You aim for that, where the jaw meets the skull and you can knock a guy out. I think that's what happened here. But anyway, he got taken out of the match. In a weird way, I think it helped the match. Because it's like Imperium were positioned as the baby faces, even though. Come on, you're not going to get these crowds to root against Adam Cole.
They tried, though.
They did.
Why do you try? Just lean into it. The Undisputed Era faces, man. Like
heels, So it kind of worked, and it kind of allowed Walter to work in a position where he was outnumbered, and I thought Walter looked good. Rich, I thought this was fucking great. I love this match. Constant action. Everybody in the match is a very good worker or better. And I thought the Wolf injury where, okay, it was an awkward moment briefly, but I think it ended up helping the psychology of the match. I went 4.5 on this. I thought this was just below match of the year level. I can't call it match of the year level, but I don't think it was that far off. The work was great. Undisputed Era, they work like a pack of rabid dogs.
Yeah. God. They like stables in wrestling these days. Like a lot of times it's just like guys are just, together and they're just a group or whatever. These guys just feel like they're in lockstep and they work like they're in lockstep too. This is like an old school, because like Imperium, like they're all together, but it's just kind of like.
Do you know who they remind me of? This is going to be the weirdest comparison. A pushed version of Kai and Tai.
Yeah, that's good. No, yeah. If people watch Kai and Tai, anytime they ran in, all 4 guys would just run in and just smack the bat. Like they would run in and all just attack a guy at the same time, and I'll kick him on the ground and stuff like that. That's Undisputed Era. Yeah, they're just like they're ravenous, like you said. They're wolves.
They're like rabid dogs. They're like there's 4 of them, and it feels like there's 12 of them. Every time you turn around, remember Kai and Tai? Every time you turn around, Dick Togo's flying at you. Fucking Men's Teo's flying at you. Taka. These guys too. It's like every time you turn around and they're all the same size. They all look the same. Like Kyle O'Reilly, like fucking knees you in the face. You turn around and Bobby Fish is throwing a roundhouse. You turn around and Roderick Strong is running in with a forearm. It's constant action. They're all over you. And then you have Imperium, and it's like perfect dichotomy because Imperium, they're all like bigger guys. Right? And there's only 3 of them because the one guy got knocked out. So they're just attacking these guys from all angles. Walter's like swatting them off like they're flies, and trying to – I don't know. This just worked for me, and I like the presentation of Walter for once in a big spot because, they've been spotty with that, as we talked about last week. Ackner and Bartel, look, they're never headlining WrestleMania. But holy shit, are those guys solid as fuck?
Yeah, I agree.
Those are guys you want on your roster. They're the solid workhorse guys on your roster that you just want to have. Those guys fucking rule, okay? So all of this worked for me. I'm excited talking about it. You can hear it in my voice. Like I'm scooting up in my seat because like I'm remembering spots from the match. Man, this is my kind of pro wrestling. Just go out there for 20 minutes and kick the shit out of each other and know who you are as a performer. Undisputed Era working like a pack of dogs, and Walter working like a big guy, and Ackner and Bartel just being the glue of the match. Man, that's why I went so high on it. What'd you think of it?
No, I went 4.25, so maybe not as high as you, because I thought it did go a little too long for me, which is a problem with all these NXT main events is they think that they have to go 30 minutes, and it's like you don't always have to go 30 minutes. But no, I thought like in a horrible way. I hate to say that, but like, yeah, the Wolf injury really did help the match a lot. Like, not that Wolf wasn't going to play a good role, but like you said, it played out perfectly because Imperium actually did become the babyfaces then, because it's these 3 guys fighting off the 4-pack of wolves or whatever, and then they do it, which I thought was even more surprising as well. I was like, oh man, Undisputed Era is going to win, and it's going to make them, because they beat 4-on-3. Okay, yeah, no big deal, but like, yeah, Imperium winning, and this crowd was going nuts for them. Like, hell yeah, they won, despite going down 1 man because one of their guys got knocked the fuck out. They still won. They still prevailed or whatever. But yeah, this match, like, the cool thing about this is despite, however long it went, it just built and it built and it built and it built. And by the time, like, the last 5 minutes, the thing's at like a fever pitch and the crowd's going nuts and the guys are working like crazy. So no, I thought this was fantastic. I think there's a lot of people that did not watch this match because I did not hear a lot of buzz about it, but go and watch this match. I mean, this was really, really good stuff.
Yeah. And you think about, too, Wolf got knocked out very early in the match.
Oh, I was surprised. Like, I heard that he got knocked out because I watched this a little bit. I watched it on Monday, and I thought, like, oh, man, they probably did, like, half the match, and then he got out. Like, he was done 5 minutes in, and I'm like, man, like, I spent the rest of the match just marveling at everybody in this ring being able to completely just put together a match where you're missing a guy who and we know how NXT guys put together matches. We know how that company operates, and a lot of it is very pre-planned, very sort of coordinated, and very like. And the idea that like we're just going to lose one guy completely and basically wrestle this match, like that's a marvel. Like that's the stuff about wrestling that I love too. Is like the guys that don't speak the same language, guy that gets hurt, or guy that they need to adjust, or they're adjusting for the crowd or whatever. Like the idea that like one dude is just gone from this match and will not come back, and the idea of working a match and having it still work and still feel great despite the fact that one guy's missing. I love that shit. It actually increased the match for me in all those ways because it was like they made it seamless and just it's awesome.
Yeah, it's who knows what was planned that they couldn't do because what spots had to get thrown out the window. But I mean, these are 7 veteran guys who know what they're doing.
Yeah, well, that's why I love pro wrestling. It's not like they have a 5 minutes to go, okay, hold on. Like, where the referee goes, all right, the match is going to get stopped, and all the guys huddled together and go, okay, here's what we're going to do. Like, they just, while they're all doing this, all have to decide, okay, hey, by the way, we're going to do this. Well, fuck that. We're not going to do that. We're going to do this instead. Like, that's what I love about pro wrestling, man. That's why I say it's so difficult at times.
You think Roderick Strong and Walter and Axel Dieter Jr. and Bobby Fish need to have shit planned out to have a good match? I mean, come on.
No, not at all. No, and that's why I think it was awesome, too, that they had to, they could throw some of that stuff out of the way and just do whatever the fuck they, work the match like they're working a match. Yeah, which is great. I love that.
Yeah, so, credit to them, too, for that. But this is what we thought. I mean, we thought this would be a really good show with zero hype. And it was a really good show that basically has zero hype. I mean, no one talked about it. No one was tweeting about it. It's got no buzz in the, even though it was a really strong show and the following, it existed. It did bad attendance. I think they'll learn from this. I mean, I think maybe this might have been a reality check for them that NXT UK just has no footprint whatsoever in the United States. And maybe selling out all of those UK takeovers and selling out all their TV tapings gave them a false sense of what the brand is.
Right.
So we're running a little short on time, and we got 2 more shows to get through. Let's talk about NWA Hard Times. And I got that Billy Corrigan Hard Times song.
I know, I did too. It took me days.
Hard Times!
I know, it took me days to lose that song. And like, because I'm watching the entrance video, because it's pretty well done. And yeah, it's just like he hits that chorus. It just goes and goes and goes. And yeah, I had Hard Time stuck in my head all weekend. So. This
review also is brought to you by our friends at Grapple. If you did not know, the NWA is now one of the many promotions that you can rate on Grapple. Rich, quickly, because we do got to get through 2 more shows in about 25 minutes. Did you want to quickly talk about how hard it is to rate NWA matches?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I watched the show on Friday as it happened. I watched probably half the show on Friday, then I went back Saturday morning and watched the rest of it. As it was happening, I had my Grapple app open like I always do when I'm watching the show, and I'm thinking, okay, here we go. And then, Trevor Murdoch defeats the question mark in 3 minutes. And I'm like, good match. And I'm thinking, I know I'll go back to that one. Dan Maff defeats Zicky Dice in 2 minutes. I'm like, that was awesome. Okay. Like Ricky Starks defeats Matt Cross in 3 minutes. And these are all good matches. They're all 3 minutes long and 2 minutes long. And they're exactly what they need to be. The guy wins. The guy's definitively moving on in this title tournament. They tell you the story about this guy. They tell you the background, and that guy wins. And you go, okay, cool. Trevor Murdoch is moving on. Dan Maff is moving on. Ricky Starks is moving on. This is the huge issue with why, and we talked about it weeks ago when we were talking about NWA as well. In one breath, it's like, I don't think the wrestling is very good on these NWA shows. It's not like tremendous pro wrestling, but God, I love watching it because it's just like cool. 2 minutes in and out. I know the story. I know who's the winner. I know who the loser is, and I know they're moving on or whatever, or what their progression is going to be. Ricky Starks, he beats Matt Cross in 3 minutes. I didn't care that these 2 guys that I think could have a tremendous match with each other only had a 3 minute match because I'm like, cool. Ricky Starks is moving on in the tournament. When I was left, at the end, I didn't rate any of the TV title stuff. I rated Thunder Rosa and Allison Kay, which we'll talk about. I rated the tag team title match. I rated, the interpromotional match for the world title. I rated Steiner and Stevens, but I didn't rate anything from the television tournament, and not even the final. Like when the final was over too, it was like hard to even rate. Like it's this weird thing that they do where it just exists in a different pro wrestling universe than all this other stuff. I have no problem rating other matches. I had so much of an issue rating a 3 minute Ricky Starks Matt Cross match because it was like tremendous match. It did exactly what it needed to do, but like I can't in good conscience give that match 4 stars. I can't give that match 3.5 stars or whatever. So like I don't know what to do with those matches. I don't know how to rate them.
Studio wrestling and squash matches are 2 things that just do not fit into the rating scale. And it's why I struggle with star ratings and go back and forth on them. And it just doesn't, see, I'll disagree slightly. I thought the wrestling on the show was very good. It's not that, but in a universe like the NWA's where a 4 minute match is a long match, to be honest, it doesn't fit the same rating scale as say a WWE or New Japan. It's just it doesn't work. So it's hard. Unless they have the longer matches like you talked about. So it's like you mentioned Trevor Murdoch question mark. Let's start there. Perfect match that accomplished what it was supposed to accomplish. Very similar to like what a squash match would do. But like you said, it's hard to rate. but it wasn't a bad match, and the wrestling wasn't bad. In fact, Dan Moff and Zicky Dice, I thought was a well-worked match.
That was great, man. Oh, my God, I love them. And that's the match where I really was just like, you know what, I'm not going to rate any of these, because I love that match. I thought it was fantastic. I thought Dan Maff worked his ass off. I thought they told the story, and I was like, hell, let's go, Dan Maff. Like, let's win this tournament, baby. Like, let's do it. And like, again, it was like 2 minutes, and I was like, how do you rate that match? How do you love a match? And yeah, you just move on, I guess.
This will help your point. Trevor Murdoch, ? Grapple users, 2.1. Dan Moff versus Zicky Dice, Grapple users, 2.18. Now, you look at that, and you think, wow, that Dan Moff-Zicky Dice match just wasn't very good. It's below 2.5. It's 2, but it was. But I think people struggle. It's like you can't, how can you in good conscience go, oh, that was a 3.5-star match when you're giving – it's the rating scale doesn't just – the scale, the way that most people use it, doesn't work for these kinds of matches.
Right.
I think that's all there is to it. Matt Cross, Ricky Starks – my God, I thought that was well worked. Ricky Starks was everywhere he needed to be on Matt Cross's flying stuff. Matt Cross looked great. It had a clean, definitive finish with the right guy winning. And Grapple users went a little higher on that one. They went 2.76. I went 3 stars flat on that. I thought it had good action. But again, very hard to rate. And then we get into some of the stuff which does sort of fit better into the traditional match rating mold. The 3-way for the tag team titles. Finally, the Rock and Roll Express dropped the titles. Your new tag team champions are James Storm and Eli Drake. I thought this was a pretty good match. I mean, I'm not over the moon about it. I went 3 flat on this too. Ricky Morton took the pin, which didn't surprise me, and I thought was the right call. I think you want the champions to lose if they're going to lose the titles, but do you have a lot to add about this?
Not really. Yeah, I wasn't in love with it. I went 2 3/4 with it. Yeah, I wasn't in love with it. I thought the triple threat aspect of it kind of hurt a little bit, but I was happy with the result, and I'm glad the Rock and Roll lost the titles finally, and they can hopefully move on a little bit. But they're super over, and the fans love them or whatnot. But I think there's a better way to use those tag team titles moving forward. Yeah, it's time for them to move on. So
it was time.
Yeah, I like the way they went about it. Like I think I guess you didn't want Drake and Storm to just straight up beat the Rock and Roll Express, so you needed the wild cards to be in there involved. But then they pinned them anyway, so it was like, all right, well then now I don't know why the wild cards are in this match. So,
yeah, I don't know. But it was time, and I think the Rock and Roll Express have a place on this show, and I like their presence on the show, but it was the right move. Allison Kay loses the NWA World Women's title to Thunder Rosa. Best women's match of the entire weekend?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I agree. I wasn't sure what you thought of this match because, listen, there were sloppy parts to this match. There's no question. And Thunder Rosa is a great pro wrestler, and Allison Kay is a nice lady.
Allison Kay was also in this match, yes.
So there was some sloppy stuff here, and Kay had trouble keeping up at times. But the total package between the crowd and the drama and the excitement and the stuff that did work, I might be overrating it. I don't give a fuck. I went Notebook.
There you go.
I went 4 stars on this.
That's exactly where I went too. Yeah, absolutely. Any match that starts out with the two people ripping at each other from the bell is always good. That's like, you start out like that and I'm in. You know what I mean? And the build to this worked for that. And they worked the rest of the match that way. It was a vicious, hard-hitting, good back and forth. Like there was really the amount of downtime that happened. This match went 18 minutes. It did not feel like 18 minutes to me whatsoever. It felt like it blew by, and yeah, really good. Yeah, I thought Thunder Rosa was incredible in this match. I mean, this was one of the standout performance for her, and like you said, Allison Kay, there was some points that didn't quite work out, but I thought she stayed in as good as she could with Rosa at times. But yeah, I think the right choice of Rosa winning the title, and yeah, this is a tremendous match. I mean, if don't sleep on this. I mean, if there's one match you have to watch from the show, I would definitely say this is the one to watch. I mean, really, really want to go out of your way and check out for sure.
Quickly, we don't have a ton of time. Best match in modern NWA, Billy Corgan, Dave Lagana history.
Yes, yeah, I think so.
Okay, the contenders would be Tim Storm, Josephus, empty arena at the Impact Zone.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Storm, Nick Aldis to kick off Power week 1. Nick Aldis versus Cody, 70th anniversary. Nick Aldis versus Skrull, Crockett Cup. I'm not going to count Nick Aldis Cody from All In. I believe that's right.
If you counted that, then that's the pick.
That's going to be your winner. But It wasn't an NWA show. I don't know. not today to debate it because we don't have the time.
Right. If those, the ones that you mentioned, no, this one is. This one as like a pure wrestling match, because all those matches had like some stuff that I really enjoyed about them, but this was just too you know, I just thought it was overall just a better wrestling match than I think a lot of those. No, I would definitely choose this one for sure.
And the other one I'd throw in is Aldis Starks from TV a few weeks ago.
That was tremendous too. Yeah.
I think those are the 5 or 6, along with this one, that I would say that's the best stuff since this reboot. Dan Moff, Trevor Murdoch. I don't have a ton to say about it. Murdoch moved on in the tournament. It was another one of the short television title matches, which was perfectly well worked. Had no issue with it. And then we had Ricky Starks versus Tim Storm, because Tim Storm received the bye because Ken Anderson was not quote-unquote medically cleared. That's something that I'm working on. Look for maybe an update behind the paywall on that. So Starks defeats Storm, and then they sort of do the deal, the babyface thing where they raise each other's hands after the match. And those guys have crossed paths in Texas before. Grapple users on Moff Murdoch, 2.3. Grapple users on Stark Storm, 2.32. Aaron Stevens, Scott Steiner. I hated this. It was my least favorite show. I'm so tired of Aaron Stevens. I went 1.5 stars. Stevens was the only champion to retain on the night, by the way, which is the right move if you're not bringing Steiner back. But did you hate this as much as I did?
I thought it was pretty crap. Yeah, it was just like the thing with Stevens. It's like a one-note joke that just goes on way too long.
It's always too long. Why was this so long?
I don't know. The whole time I'm thinking. I remember on the flagship when I said, "Well, they should keep this nice and tight because it's Scott Steiner. He can't do too much." And I was like, and you were like, "No, Rich, they're not. It's gonna go way too long." And like 6 minutes into this thing, I'm like, "My God, it's still fucking going on. God damn it, it just ends." Yeah. And yeah, it was such a shit finish too, just garbage. And the Scott Steiner thing too. That like it's fun because he cuts fun promos, but he's pretty toast. I'd probably not bring him back if I were NWA. So
Grapple users 1.48, and then we had
that's bad.
It's bad. Yeah, that's what I went on it. So Nick Aldis ended up defending the title against Flip Gordon after cutting a tremendous promo. He would agree to a title shot if Marty Scurll would agree to Nick Aldis calling all the shots moving forward in terms of when they wrestle each other. And I don't know if you saw Power this week, but it was maybe their best episode yet.
I've heard, yeah, I haven't. I have not watched it yet. I was actually going to watch it before we recorded here, but I'm going to probably watch it now after we record.
I wish we had more time, but the sit down between Aldis and Scurll was just incredible television. And he's going to defend the title against Scurll at the Crockett Cup. And Scurll wins. He wins the title. If Scurll loses, he refunds everybody's ticket. Which, yeah. Now you know you're going to see a title change, but it's the title change everybody wants. So again, sometimes doing the obvious result is the right result, And if you don't get what you want, you get your money back.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a great. Yeah, I love it. It's a classic old school angle, and I like it. Yeah, it lets you know that you're going to one way or another you're going to get a good result, no matter what happens. So hey,
yeah. But you got to watch Power this week. It was awesome, including that sit down. But Nick Aldis defeats Flip Gordon. I thought Flip looked really good here and, being too fast and quick for Aldis and hitting those cutters from every angle. And then Aldis beats him with, we want to call it the WrestleMania 10 finish, Bret Hart, Owen Hart, where he sits straight down on him.
Yeah, no, you can call it that for sure.
Or like Okada defeating Omega in Fall 2, or Okada beating Jericho, similar to that. I went 3 3/4. Grapple users went 3.42. What'd you think of Aldis Flip Gordon? Quickly.
Yeah. So I really liked it. I maybe not as much as you, but I went 3 3.25 for that as well. And it's another one that it wasn't like a match that I would definitely go back and watch, some other time this year. But I thought it was pretty good and pretty entertaining. So yeah, I liked it.
And then the main event was the TV tournament final, Ricky Starks versus Trevor Murdoch. They worked an old school classic match where Murdoch dominated the brunt of it. Starks had to come from behind. Little touch at the end that I loved is Starks hit the spear on Murdoch, okay, based on, callbacks from Murdoch's previous matches in the night, going after those ribs. And then he hit his finish, which, what do you want to call his finish? I don't know what he calls it. The stroke or angel wings, whatever you want to call that finish that he does. He calls it the Buster Keaton.
That's right, the Buster. Yeah, right.
But he hit that spear first to go after the ribs there. So they did some callbacks to what you saw earlier in the night. And Ricky Starks, absolutely the right call, is your world television champion. And I love the way he reacted to the win. You know, when people win a title, I pay attention to that stuff. You know, he looked like there was an adrenaline dump after the 3 count, and he had this look on his face like, I did it, and he looked proud to having won the title. And that's how you put a championship over, the way you react when you win the championship, too. So I thought it was a good little match. I went 3 stars flat. Grapple users went 3.12. What did you think of the tournament final?
Yeah, I really liked it. It was one of those ones that I had trouble kind of star rating as well. For whatever reason, these TV title ones, I just didn't. But yeah, I thought the right result. And yeah, I also, you know, there wasn't anything from the match itself that I really like. I'm going to remember all that much, but I will remember that 1, 2, 3 hitting and Starks just becoming like kind of overwhelmed with emotion and overwhelmed with adrenaline or whatnot, like you said. And it's cool. Like, make that title matter. And that in that one moment, it made it matter. And he, you know, got in the ring and everybody was cheering or whatnot. And it was the clear crowd favorite, the clear direction to go. And I'm so glad that he got that title. And yeah, he's the guy that they created a star in season 1 and they're continuing to create a star in season 2. And that's awesome to see. So.
Yeah, some of the booking in the NWA is a little spotty. Some of the guys go from babyface to heel with no explanation and things like that. Eli Drake, James Storm, to some extent. I guess he's been a face the whole time. But it's hard to tell sometimes. Ken Anderson seems to flip-flop. But one thing that they've done well is this slow build of Ricky Starks from episode 1, season 1, to winning this title here. And a relative unknown, you know, especially compared to the rest of the roster. And they've gotten him over with that Atlanta crowd. And he wins the TV title tournament, and he had a successful defense against Zicky Dice on episode 1 of season 3, and they cut a couple of good promos on each other on that episode. You really need to watch. It was one of the better Power episodes.
Yeah,
I don't think
I'm
Power.
on it.
You could skip a Power here and there, but that's one I think you should watch. So I wish we had more time to talk NWA, but there's one more topic. I think there's one more topic.
Yeah, we're gonna shelf the New Japan previews. I mean, whatever. We talk about New Japan all the time, so that's fine.
Yeah, because we really want to get to this Melbourne City Wrestling Vendetta show, which I watched this week. I watched the whole show. How much of it did you watch?
I've seen the whole show. I've seen everything now.
Oh, you've seen the whole show?
Yep, saw everything.
Awesome.
When Scorpio did our review for VoiceOfWrestling.com and called it one of the best Australian wrestling shows he's ever seen, and I was like, okay, that piqued my interest. Then you caught wind of it, and you started talking about it as being one of the best shows you've ever seen. I was like, all right, I gotta watch this whole damn thing, and I did, and it was fucking great.
This was legitimately a great show. There were 7 matches on this show. I went notebook on 5 of them. I mean, because then I started getting wrapped up in the show. Like, okay, so everyone's going to be talking about Will Ospreay, Dowie James. And it was great. There's no doubt about it that it was great. And it wasn't just the Will Ospreay show. Dowie James held up his end of the bargain with that dumb smirk on his face. He's an excellent heel. You want to see him get his ass kicked. He was very sleazy when it was called for. Ospreay had him up for the Stormbreaker, and he got tangled up with the ref. And they didn't do like a I groaned because I was like, oh, they're going to do a ref bump. But they didn't. It was just he got tangled up with the ref, and it just saved his ass.
Right, and the ref got up like pretty quickly after, too, and just kind of shrugged himself. Like, he wasn't down for 9 minutes, you know what I mean? Like,
no, it was just, this fucker got saved by a fluke because he got tied up with the ref in the Stormbreaker. But, you know, it was a great match. Ospreay ended up winning in the end, and he worked it with that injured heel, which he kind of worked into the story of the match. He kept pounding on his heel and grabbing at his heel. But just a great match. Typical Will Ospreay. He doesn't slow down. I went 4 3/4 on this fucker, and I can easily see it being in play when a Raider match at high, of course, for my match of the year at the end of the year in terms of my top 10. I mean, I thought it was that great, you know, and you know, I've heard talk that it's one of the greatest matches ever to take place on the island of Australia. And you know, I was skeptical of Scorpio Corp's review that it was the best show in Australia's history, but it may have been. This show was so good. And it wasn't just that main event. What were your thoughts on the main event quickly?
Yeah, I love the main event. And I think what I really liked about it is, you know, for people that hate Will Ospreay or think he sucks or whatever. I mean, this guy, they think he's a one-trick pony and does, you know, watch this match, because this is like, he's not doing he's doing some of the flying, obviously, but yeah, because of the heel and because that was the story of the match, he was very grounded, and he was a little bit more of like kind of an in-ring guy and a little bit more of kind of just a straight wrestler. I mean, he did not do the typical Will Ospreay stuff, you know, the entire match or whatever. So I like that part about it. And like you said, Dowie James, I think I was really into that character. And for people that don't know the story, basically the story was this: Dowie James is kind of annoyed that Will Ospreay cut that promo all those years ago, and we talked about it on the show as well, where he said, I'm going to come with Australia and I'm going to save Australian wrestling and we're going to grow Australian wrestling together. And Dowie James is like, fuck you, dude. I've been here. I've been growing this company. I've been growing wrestling in this country. Like, who the fuck are you? Think you're going to come out here and we don't need you? You know what I mean? Like, you're an unwanted invader. Get out of here. We don't want you. And that was a great story to tell, because you can believe that there's some real life feelings of that too. Like, hey, dude, like, no, hold on. Like, don't just show up in our region and say that you're going to save us. Like, we don't need saving, man. We're good. Like, we're doing what we're doing. So it's a really cool story to tell with that, and that's what it was. Dowie James is kind of representing that, and the fans didn't like that because the fans like Will Ospreay. The fans like that he came in and gave some legitimacy to that region or whatever. So it's a really cool story that played it, and yeah, he played it up that way too, where he was there defending Australian wrestling, but did it in a way that was so dickish that the fans really couldn't get behind him either, even though they maybe ultimately might agree with some of the parts of Dowie James, but being a good heel, he was unlikable, and the crowd booed him as such too. So no, I thought it was tremendous pro wrestling.
Yeah, and what was I going to say here? James, with that crazy tornado DDT off the apron to the floor. I mean, that jumped me off of my couch. And James is a guy who should be getting bookings outside of Australia. I think he's very good. But Will Ospreay, yeah, I mean, it's just, the guy is just when that theme song hits, dun, 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 when Elevated comes on, that's like the universal sign of you're about to see a great fucking match. Yeah,
strap in. Yeah, get ready.
he's the guy's fucking money, and it's every time. And I'm tired of saying, like you just said, if you don't think, look, if you're not on board now, you're never going to be on board, and you're dragging your heels. And right. He's great. And
you might want to mute us. You might want to mute us for the next week because our match of the year is rolling out. And if you're a Will Ospreay is actually a bad guy, you're probably going to want to log off for a week or so. And
also just get with the fucking program.
And get with the fucking program. Yeah.
Okay, give me a fucking break. So the opener, I thought was almost as good. Adam Brooks.
Joe, I thought it was exactly as good. I went 4.5 with that one too.
Adam Brooks, this match, he defends against Slex, and Slex, this is it for him. He cuts the promo. He says he's going ROH afterwards. So Brooks wins. Brooks is the heel here. And Brooks, look, I get it. He flopped a few times in the United States, but if you don't think this guy is good, you're wrong. I'm telling you flat out, you're wrong. Watch this match. He just has, maybe it's a confidence thing, but he's just like a different wrestler in Australia. And it came through here, and Slex is awesome. He is so ready for Ring of Honor. He is so ready for the spotlight. He has improved so much since that Okada match. He's like the total package now. He understands his character. He works with confidence. Brooks was great here. I went 4.5 on this. I mean, the work here was just so crisp and so awesome. And Adam Brooks is just so good with his mannerisms. The Australian scene has just improved so much since I started following it like 3 or 4 years ago. And I have watched all of these guys improve in front of my eyes, and it's from guys like Will Ospreay going down there. And it's from these guys working against each other and getting booked in PWG and getting booked in other places. And holy shit, was this a great world title match. And then with Slex saying goodbye in the aftermath. So you liked it just as much as I did.
Yeah, fucking tremendous match. And I saw Brooks at AEW once, and it was like an incredible. I forgot the match. They put it up for free, and it's up there somewhere. So for people, I always kind of point at people because people are like, I'm not buying into Brooks. I don't think he's good in America. I always point to that match because I'm like, well, he that week or that night or whatever, he was great. But I did see. I saw some of the PWG stuff, and it didn't quite land. Whatever, man. It's gonna land at some point. I'm exactly like you. If you're sleeping on this guy, if you're counting him out, you're gonna be so wrong in a few years or a year time or whatever because he is fucking tremendous, and he was so good in this match. Slex was good, but Adam Brooks is on another level in this match. He was tremendous.
Oh my god, he's so good. I mean, those two matches were world class stuff.
Yeah.
They were world-class stuff. You could have put those two matches on Wrestle Kingdom. They'd fit right in. That's how good those two matches were. Just to give you a comparison point. The last one, I don't think we're going to get to it all. This Danny Psycho versus Royce Chambers match. Let me tell you something. I never saw either one of these guys in my life. Okay? I watched this match, and all I could think is Royce Chambers is going to be the biggest thing in wrestling in 18 months. He's going to be the hottest name in wrestling. He's going to work everywhere. And everybody listening to this is going to know his name. You don't know his name now. He's one of these guys where you can't even click him on Cage Match. That's going to change in 18 months. This Royce Chambers is so fucking good. And he's not just one of these standard issue flippy-do guys that weigh 180 pounds and they do some flips, but everyone else can do this. No. This guy is like a hybrid between Will Ospreay and Buddy Murphy. He's got a great look. His shit is crisp. His shit, he's a relatively young wrestler, but he comes off like his shit. He wrestles like a veteran. I'm not saying he's a finished product, but this guy blew me away to the point I'm DMing promoters saying, you got to go watch
That's true.
This guy. Right, Rich? I mean, he is so good. I mean, I couldn't believe what I was watching and that I never heard of this guy. Royce Chambers. You remember the name or don't, but you're going to get left behind. Oh, my God. I want to see this guy in Best of the Super Juniors this year because I think he can hang. I want to see this guy all over the world, and whether it's this year or next year, it's going to happen. This guy is way too good. This is not, like I said, this is not a standard issue flippy-doo guy from your local indie show who, okay, maybe he's got some potential. This guy can be a huge star. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a promoter, you better book this guy because as soon as he wrestles Will Ospreay, it's over. Because Will Ospreay gets everybody over, and they become, get to him before Will wrestles him. Better yet, bring him to WrestleMania weekend and get him in the ring with Will Ospreay. It'll be the match of the weekend, I guarantee it. Rich, I have one dream match in the world right now, and it's Will Ospreay versus Royce Chambers.
The way you were talking this weekend, I'm thinking you're going and booking a show that weekend. If no one's going to book it, I think you're going to fuck it. Brittany, give me $10,000. We're running a fucking show.
Now, Rich, people think I'm probably crazy. What did you think of Royce Chambers?
No, he was jump. I have never seen him either. He was jump off the page good. He was awesome.
This is a real prospect.
Yeah,
I mean
absolutely.
A real fucking prospect.
You
this
can
guy
tell that there needs to be a little bit of stuff, get a little bit of better of a haircut, get a little bit better gear, but the in between the rings, I mean, the way he conducted himself, the way he sold, I thought he sold great in this match too. I think that's, and I want to give a little credit to Danny Psycho too. I've never seen Danny Psycho before, but I thought, I was like, man, that guy's fucking great too.
Rules. I want to book that guy. You know what Danny Psycho reminded me of? He's like if Carl Fredericks had the gimmick of Reno Scum.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I thought Carl Fredericks the entire time. Maybe it's because the tattoos. They have the exact same tattoos, and they kind of look similar too. Yeah.
They work the same way, but he has a punk gimmick.
Yeah.
Right. But so he has a good look and a good gimmick, and that guy rules. I'm telling you,
booking that guy too. I just want to say,
I would book these two guys WrestleMania weekend, and I would tell them go have the same match you had in Australia.
Yeah.
And it would be the match of the weekend, and both of these guys would be worldwide stars. Because you're right, Psycho was right there. Psycho looks good. I don't know who this guy is. Maybe this was the match of his life, but that guy fucking rules too. And he's a heavyweight. Oh, man, this Royce Chambers, though, Rich, I'm telling you, people are going to think we're overselling it. But this guy, it's similar to the first time I saw Vikingo, where you see Vikingo and it's this guy's different.
Yeah. Oh, what I likened it to is the first time I saw Ricochet. I saw Ricochet, I think a DGUSA show or something was probably the first time I ever saw him. And it was that same thing where you're like, oh.
You never saw Scrubby Ricochet. So
Exactly. I didn't see Chikara, 110-pound Ricochet. Yeah, I never saw that. So.
Right. So you're talking, that's a good one.
Mohawk, a little bit of muscle on him. You can tell, and this is the same way I say about Royce Chambers. Not 100% there, but you can tell that all the makings are there. It needs a little bit of a touch-up, a little bit of a cleanup, and a little bit more work, and you have a fucking superstar on your hands. And that's what I felt with Royce Chambers, for sure.
Absolutely. I'm not going to name names, but he is so far ahead of some of these other indie guys that people talk about. And because I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on those guys. But it's my God, you watch this guy, and I'm just standing up in my living room going, this guy is fucking money on my screen. This guy is a money-drawing star if he is handled the right way and ends up in the right places. And there's whispers that there's Japanese promotions that are already hip to him. So if you want to get your claws into this guy, you better hurry up.
Right, do it now.
Okay. Oh my God, I haven't been this impressed by a wrestler the first time I've seen them in so long. And a lot of credit to Danny Psycho too. This Danny Psycho guy, he could step right in to any promotion in the U.S. right now, indie or MLW level or ROH or something. And from what I saw in this match, he would stand out as well. So,
he's been wrestling for years apparently, and it's man, I can't believe I don't know. Again, I don't know if he's he stepped away for a little bit or he came back, or I don't know what the situation was with him. I thought they mentioned something like that in the commentary, but I forget. But no, he was tremendous, man. I loved it. Again, I also thought Royce Chambers, but when it was done, I was like, Royce Chambers is great, but let's talk about this Danny Psycho guy a little bit too, man. He was, I was super, super impressed. Super impressed by him, and ultimately, I want to say this real quick too, is we're kind of a little bit low on time. We have a few more.
Let's go a couple minutes over. We'll go a couple minutes.
Yeah, we'll go a couple minutes over. It's fine. But I was also really impressed by the MCW production in general. I mean, the streaming service was nice and easy to use. The arena looked great. The sound looked great. The announcers were good, and it's I was watching that going, you know what I'm going to do in 2020? I'm going to watch a lot more Australian wrestling. MCW is on my radar now, man. I'm
we got him on board, guys. We got Craich on board. let me tell you, you watch this show, and should I go down this road?
Fuck it. Go ahead. We just passed the 3-hour mark. Shoot. Go ahead.
This was the best indie show I've seen since 2016 Peak Evolve. I watch these American indie shows, the hyped ones even, and my God, did this blow it away in every way. Not just the great matches, the production, the commentary that wasn't overbearing, just the whole vibe. Very low on the silliness. Very low on the tongue-in-cheek. We all know this is a work bullshit. Very low on the the feel of U.S. indie wrestling right now, which I'm not a fan of. This is just wrestling.
Yeah.
This feels like the way indie wrestling was 8 years ago.
Right. And taking pride in the way your company looks and the way your wrestling matches look and the way they sound is super important too. And
wrestlers look.
Yeah. I can rant about it all the time, but yeah, a bunch of guys going out there looking like fucking stars, looking like $1 million.
None of these shindy looking guys wrestling in t-shirts with the sleeves ripped off. It's like they're putting people on their shows that look professional, wrestle well. I mean, so I could totally see where, as you, a guy coming in to watch this show, you've had one eye on the scene, but you haven't really, I've been watching a little more than you have, and you going, holy shit, this is the indie wrestling I remember.
Right, this is what I've been wanting for so long, and it's like, all right, I could just officially rest in peace, American Indies for me, at least. If you like it, that's cool, enjoy, but yeah, I think I'm going to watch a lot more Australian stuff in 2020 for sure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, this Psycho Chambers match, Rich, am I nuts? I went 4.5 on that fucking match.
No, dude. I was right there with you. Yeah, right exactly with you.
This was like a high-level best of the Super Juniors match, but not quite the best match of the tour. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't Will Ospreay Shingo.
It was like some show versus whoever, show versus
Dragon Lee,
right. Where you're like, that was a damn good match. Like,
where's the main event and it tears the house down and everyone's talking about it for 2 days, but it's not the match that's going to win match of the year, right? That's kind of like the best comparison. It was so good, the execution too. It's like, oh man, I don't know. This show was just so much better than everything going on in the United States. And it's probably going to annoy people. I call it like it is, Rich. I wasn't expecting this show.
We can like what we're gonna like. Fuck them if they can't handle it. We like what we like, whatever.
I wasn't expecting this.
No.
But it's like Avery versus Kellyanne. Can I do a minute on this?
Sure, go ahead.
Rich, I went 4 stars on this. Am I nuts?
Okay, that's a little nuts. I liked it, but I went not 4 stars. Okay, you were on a high. I don't know what you were doing. Yeah, Foster's next to you or something.
Was I wrapped up in the show?
I think you were. It was good. It was really, really good. It wasn't 4 stars good, but that's fine.
I mean, geez.
You like what you like, Joe. Just what I said. If you liked it 4 stars, then go ahead. Knock yourself out.
Rich, this Avery.
She was good. She was really good.
Oh my God. How is she not everywhere? Now, I think she may have been actually that might be she may have worked some places. Hold on, let me check.
No, she worked like Shimmer last year. I know for a fact she worked Shimmer last year. I think she was in Stardom a lot of last year as well. So she's starting to get a little a little bit of buzz.
Yeah. She's a Stardom wrestler. Okay, that makes sense because she's a finished product.
Yeah,
she's so good. I never heard of her, but I see. Yeah, she's done Stardom. Yeah, she's been around.
I don't know if she's. I don't remember if she did Shimmer. I thought she did, but yeah, she did Stardom for sure.
So people know who she is. She's not like this Danny Psycho and this Royce Chambers. No one knows these people. Like these are deep in the fucking weeds kind of people. She's not. Okay, so she's been out there. So no point going off on that. But I thought that was a great match. It had great psychology. Some of the spots were outstanding. Even the finish, which played into a spot from earlier in the match where she missed the cannonball and then Avery hit her finish. I'm like, holy shit, this show rules. And then the no DQ match with Caveman Ugg and Hartley Jack.
You were gonna. This is the reason I brought the cattle mutilation up. Is Avery puts the cattle mutilation on Kellyanne, right. And Kellyanne like fucking powers through it. I was like, fuck yeah, and then just lands around, just like fucking catapults around to her face. It was like awesome.
Yeah, bending her in half. I mean, this was a really good match. I mean, you might not think it was notebook material, but what would you do? Like 3.5?
Yeah, I'm like 3.5. I'm just saying you're a little. I like joking around with you. I mean, it was like 3.5. It was really good. Yeah.
And at this point in the show, I'm like, nothing on this show has been bad, and the next match is the fucking main event. Like this whole show's good.
Yeah. Even the Jet Ruka Leo Pratt was like 8 minutes, and I was like, yeah, that Jet Ruka's got some nice talents. And it's like, I didn't waste my 8 minutes. It's like, oh man, wow, refreshing.
Yeah, couple prelim guys, nice little 3-star match. We're not going to sit here and rave about it, but nothing on this show was bad. And then the Phillip brothers, who are a known commodity, somewhat, and they took on 2 guys I'm not familiar with, Burr and Taylor. That was fine. That was another little 2 3/4, 3-star match. And then the Caveman Ugg, Hartley Jackson, no DQ match, where they didn't overdo the stip. They mostly kept it in the ring. Hartley Jackson is a seasoned pro. We all know that. Caveman Ugg, is a guy who has come on over the last year and a half or so in Australia and always puts in a good performance. And they were using the lighting rig as sort of the weapon in this one and doing power. And I went notebook on that too. Okay, I was feeling it on this show.
Man.
I went notebook on this.
That was really good. It was really good too. No, everything was good. Everything was good in this match. So.
Yeah, I mean, this show fucking ruled. Legitimate. I haven't seen an indie show this good probably since the heyday of Grapple Fuck Evolve 2016 era. And maybe before that, since maybe either a really hot Dragon Gate USA show or maybe even an ROH show. That's how good this was to me. And I highly recommend if you've got the $8, it's worth it. Believe me, you're not going to think you wasted your money or whatever it costs. I don't even know what it cost. I think you could just rent the show outright for like $4 or something.
I think so, yeah. I think monthly it's somewhere around 8 or 9, or I think you can get the show for $5.99.
Yeah, listen, we got hookups. So. We're important people. But if you want to watch this, it's not expensive. Okay, so and it's well worth it. Oh man, I was standing up talking about this show. I drew a nice crowd too. 700 fans for this.
Yeah, you were a tweeting monster. You were getting these guys.
I couldn't believe it. Rich, I was expecting a good little show with a great main event. And I thought, okay, Brooks and Slex, that'll probably be a good little match too. And then I watched the show, and one match after another was fucking blowing me away. And I'm like, this is all I want out of indie wrestling. This is what I want.
What's the best is when you stumble upon something that's great. When you don't expect it and you just kind of watch, keep it on in the background, and it hooks you from there. That's the best. Because if everybody said, "Hey, Joe, this is one of the best indie shows you've ever seen," and you watch it, and like then you have those expectations the entire time. But when you hear and like I still had those expectations, I still thought it was. But yeah, when you hear it, it's like, oh yeah, go check out this match, and you kind of discover other things. It's nice to kind of discover sometimes where you're looking and you're like, what the hell? Okay, what is this? Like, what do we got here? Like, yeah, it's a refreshing feeling that we haven't had in quite a while. So
I liked it better than Scorpio Corp did. I went higher on just about every match than he did. I mean, so I was way into it. But look, nobody got thrown through a door. There was no doors getting pulled out from under the ring. There was no intergender. There was no fucking bad comedy.
Yeah, nobody's grabbing each other's nuts.
Yeah, no one's grabbing each other's dicks. There's no ring announcer putting himself over. There wasn't a ring announcer in a Wrestling is for Everyone t-shirt screaming and cursing and putting himself over. There was no, fucking commentators, letting everybody know how smart they are with insider comments and screaming at the wrong times and just being silly while they're drinking their White Claws. There was none of that. Okay? It was just a really awesome fucking wrestling show. That's all I ask. That's all I want. And they delivered. And they deserve the praise they're getting from us. And if they make a little money off it and people buy the show or it gets a little attention, good for them.
Absolutely. All right. That is it for us here on the Voice of Wrestling Flagship Podcast. As we mentioned, review of that show that we just talked about is up at voicesofwrestling.com. Also, reviews of every show that we talked about: NWA Hard Times, Worlds Collide, Royal Rumble. We'll also have a New Beginning and Sapporo preview that you can read since we didn't get to it on this show here. It's also at voicesofwrestling.com as well. Patreon.com/voicesofwrestling, of course. And stay tuned next week for a lot of Match of the Year content. We're currently tabulating all the results, just about done. And we'll have some good stuff out throughout the week. We'll do the rollouts. We'll do the top 10 rollout. We've been doing that lately on Patreon, so if you're a Patreon subscriber, you are going to get the top 10 before everybody else does as well. So I assume we're going to do that this year as well. We're kind of trying to figure out what we're going to do for the next week as we're kind of getting through all the results here. But yeah, we'll have a better idea and a better plan, and we'll let you know at Voices Wrestling on Twitter as well, and let you know what to expect and when stuff's going to drop once we're kind of done tabulating everything. But that's it. So anyway, for Joe Lanza, I'm Rich Critch. We'll talk to you guys next time on the Voice Wrestling Flagship Podcast. Take care.